Hello and welcome to the Power Hour podcast. I am your host, Scott Barrett, joined as always by the loquacious John Proctor Esquire. And today, a very special guest, Mike, the Hitman Wright. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing excellent, and I'll fully correct you. The fantasy hitman. I'm not a murderer of people, and so I'm guessing that
you're a professional wrestler.
Hey, there was no joke. There was a time in my life when I was in like 9th grade where I literally thought I was going to end up being a professional wrestler because I was that into it. But you've got me off my previous point of I'm assuming you have thesaurus.com open for that loquacious.
I did open it up, and there was
you're darn right you did
of Johnny right into it, so it seemed fitting at the time. Mike, I'm going to ask you something we've been asking our guests since the first episode we've ever done of the Power Hour podcast, and that is this your first ever podcast?
Oh, I love it. This is my first ever live podcast. I will concede that point. Wow. I have done a few of them in my past, though. I'm not a virgin podcaster here, so I hate to break that to you.
So ladies and gentlemen at home, if you are not familiar with the Fantasy Footballers podcast, you are seriously missing out. It's my favorite fantasy football podcast. Love all the guys. They're all hilarious. I met them in Nashville a short while ago. Mike actually discovered me. We might even be able to say I had like 800 followers. And then
is that legitimate?
I don't know. You shouted me out on your podcast, and I went from 800 to 2,000 in like a week.
Yeah. Hey, I'm taking full credit for that. I don't care if it was not me, but I'm just gonna take that credit. You were tweeting out these I would look at my Twitter timeline and my face would just start melting with these stats from a guy named Dude Fantasy Bro with a really mustachioed avatar that was all about it. And I was like, man, these are too good. I got to talk about these on the show. And then I'm like, crap. I got to give people credit when they give me a good stat. So there you go.
If you don't know the legend at home, people in the chat or listening on iTunes, I would just post out the dankest stats and they would just go ignored because my handle was Dude Fantasy Bro. And then Mike mentioned it on his podcast and I changed my handle. And then just from there, it was like 10,000 followers, Matthew Berry shouting me out in a span of a few months.
Matthew Berry probably got no followers, though. I like to believe it was all me.
Definitely all you. I feel like you deserve like 10 cents on every retweet I get from now on.
Well, then I would have. I'll take it. I'll take that 30 cents.
Yeah, if only you got paid for retweets, Scott.
Oh, I'm so good at it though.
It's like South Park, all that internet money. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Of course. Yeah.
No, it was like when I signed up to monetize us on YouTube. And our estimated revenue has been like $1.22. if you're not hitting like 10,000 views on a YouTube video, like you're not. They have like levels, and you have to hit these peaks. So if you're not getting like 10,000 live viewers, then you're just completely fucked, and you're not going to make anything.
We're still at the grandparents sending a video to their grandchildren on their birthday level of views.
Yeah.
Step your game up, PhDs. So last time Pano came on, he mentioned to me that my intro game has been whack lately. So I have an intro this week. And let me start off by saying that I love my mother. My mother she's awesome, hilarious.
This is always a good way to start everything.
But she's a hypochondriac. So last time she came over, she was like, "Your lips are really chapped. You're dehydrated. You look like you were stranded in a desert for weeks." that's what that means. And I'm like, no, it's just like I was out in the wind and the cold, and like I just don't buy chapstick because that's lame or whatever. And she was like, no, I'm running out right now, and I'm buying you Gatorade and Pedialyte because you're so dehydrated. So I'm 26 years old, and I eat terrible because I'm a busy boy. I got all these stats to post, and my fridge right now is 1 bottle of Pedialyte, ketchup and mustard and like something else, and the freezer is vodka, and I'm all out of all chasers. Do I drink a Pedialyte and vodka for this podcast? Hear me out, because this might be the most genius drink ever, because it keeps you dehydrated, or it keeps you hydrated as you get drunk. There's no hangover. Mike, what do you think?
I guess it's similar to like the whiskey water. I've heard of that. I had a close friend who he came from the South. He was from the Louisiana Bayou, and he said his grandfather would always have the whiskey mixed with water. So I don't know. You might be onto something. You might be onto something. I mean, there's a huge market for those bunk pills that you can take. They're like, well, prevent a hangover if you take these. Just, and you know what the instructions with those are always like, take these 2 pills after you take a drink. Take 2 pills, drink an entire bottle of water but after every single drink. And you're like, yeah, if I would drink an entire bottle of water after every single drink, then that would also help without taking your mythological pills. So you could be onto something. I don't know. You go for it. Go for it. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah. Johnny, what do you think? This has got to be disgusting, right?
No, I always preferred the the Everclear and Gatorade and Red Bull. Like I would tell myself it was going to prevent my hangover, but really it just made you black out. But in the end, it's always worth it, right? But no, dude, Pedialyte is like when you are like really dying the next day. It helps, I think. I mean, I don't know. I think it does. I've drank Pedialyte on a hangover before, for sure. So you're just doing it preemptively. It's a good idea.
I've definitely drank worse. I think in college one year, our jungle juice was Four Loko, Red Bull, and vodka.
Wait, which Four Loko though? Was it Four Loko before the ban? The original. Yeah. Okay.
We murdered people. I shouldn't.
Yeah, bad things
speak about
things
this
happen.
in public. But
I feel like there should be an NDA on that.
Well, Johnny's my lawyer, so that it actually. He should be advising me here.
Yeah, no, it's fine. People can't buy that stuff anymore, so it's fine.
All right.
We can't get anyone killed because it's not available.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try that drink out in like 5 minutes, maybe. But the reason for this podcast is we're talking about our live-ish reactions to free agency news. This is a big week of free agency, guys.
And the news just keeps breaking. I mean, we had news break, what was it, about 30 minutes before we started this pod?
That's right.
I mean, so if you have not heard and you're in the chat or you're listening to this pod, Brandon Cooks is now a member of the New England Patriots. They have traded their first, and I believe it's a 3-4 swap this year as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. I want to hear your guys' take on Brandon Cooks before I destroy him.
I was just surprised the Patriots gave up more than the first. That was really what surprised me. But
what's the 3-4 swap? I mean, it's not huge because they're the very, very back of the draft, and the Saints did their. What are they? They've got to be right in the middle. I don't have the number right in front of me. So it's not a huge move back.
No, it was it's like pick 103 for I don't know. I think it moved back like maybe 12, 15 spots, something like that. But being the Patriots, like the way they covet that, their draft position, I was just surprised. 103 to 118, so 15 spots.
What's bananas to me is just what New England has done in the past with wide receivers. We talked about this on our pod of I didn't think they were going to make the trade because they don't like to pay wide receivers any sort of money at all. And now Brandon Cooks, sure, he's super cheap this year, but next year will be his 5th-year option as a first-round pick, and that's not cheap. I mean, it's not you're not talking about just an exorbitant amount of money, but you're talking about some good money invested into a wide receiver who disappears very, very frequently. I mean, I know his end-of-the-year stats are spectacular. The guy is really fast. He has great hands, but I don't know that he's that great against actual coverage. I saw, that there's tons of numbers and metrics on Brandon Cooks. When he's outdoors, he's bad. When he's against fast DBs, he's bad. He eats up slow guys because he's fast. So, I mean, to me, it did not make sense. However, there's always a big however when you're talking about New England, because it's Bill Belichick, who's smarter than all of us in the fantasy football world combined. So you give him a tip of your cap and you say, well, I assume you know what you're doing, Mr. Uncle Billy B. But I don't personally get it. I do not get it at all unless they view Cooks as the heir apparent to Julian Edelman, he's getting up there in age, and you think, well, maybe that's a lot of money for paying a slot guy, except the slot guy lately has made their offense go besides Gronkowski. So maybe they see him as that role, and he will help drive their offense for at least for a couple years. But what do you think, Scott? What do you think about Cooks going to play for Billy Belichick?
So I think you hit the nail on the head here, and it's not just the slot receiver driving the offense lately. You saw with Wes Welker too, when he was leading the league in targets and first downs. Really, that was the backbone of the passing attack. Edelman, he definitely struggled this past season. Hit a career low in yards per target average. You touched on a few Cooks related stats that I think I might have posted over the past 3 seasons.
No. I posted them and then you copied me.
That's right.
But you made them more precise, because I tweet out things like Brandon Cooks bad, and then you come in, you're like, Brandon Cooks runs a 4.34, and against 5'10" DBs, he is subpar against the pass.
That's a great impression of me.
That's how I see you tweeting furiously at your keyboard.
Yeah, I type as furiously as Johnny sounds on the podcast, if you've ever heard his loud-ass keyboard chirping away. Yeah, over the past 3 seasons, he ranks behind, I think, only Larry Fitzgerald in terms of drop percentage, great hands. He dominates slow DBs and is only average against fast DBs, and even then it's like that's below average for a Drew Brees receiver, just because the average wide receiver from a Drew Brees target is like 0.5 fantasy points per target, more than any other, more than the average quarterback. But yeah. So all those things are super valid, and Johnny's pointed out in the podcast before how he struggles against press coverage outside, and maybe he's better in the slot. And that's something I also agree with. I think this move really doesn't make sense with Chris Hogan already there as a capable deep threat. Malcolm Mitchell, growing. He looked awesome last year in his rookie year, when this is an offense that apparently takes years for a wide receiver to master. They could have re-signed Michael Floyd super cheap if they wanted. They have Allen, they have Gronkowski.
Scott, let Michael Floyd go, man.
I have 1 dynasty share I'm trying to get rid of. Let me just hype him up.
Yeah, you tried to trade it to me for 1.05, you fucking asshole.
You're talking to an Arizona Cardinal fan diehard. Michael Floyd was my jam for years. I had to believe in him. I don't believe in Michael Floyd.
Michael Floyd doesn't believe in Michael Floyd at this point. But I think you're right. I think this comes down to being an eventual Julian Edelman replacement. I think that's the only way this move makes sense.
Yep.
Johnny?
Yeah, man. I think one thing that people don't realize is that Cooks has played a lot in the slot for the Saints.
35% last season.
Yeah, they rotated their guys. So last year and the year before, they rotated everyone throughout. People think of Willie Snead as their slot receiver, but in reality, it was sort of a combination between Snead and Cooks. So I think Cooks could, if they think that Cooks is, a souped up version of Wes Welker or Edelman. Edelman's not like a burner from the slot. Edelman's not a T.Y. Hilton. Edelman is he's like a Wes Welker. But if the Patriots are trying to create a T.Y. Hilton type role, I mean, you look at the Colts were running Hilton out of the slot like 60-70% of his routes. So if they want that kind of a weapon, then Edelman can't do that. I mean, Cooks can, but at the same time, he's someone that you have to cater an offense a little bit to him. He's not somebody that you can just sort of toss into the offense and he's gonna help the offense no matter where he's on the field. I don't know if that helps the discussion.
Where do you guys feel like Brandon Cooks will fall fantasy wise?
He's going to be super overvalued.
Well, I'm not talking about the draft. I'm talking the end of the year. Will he be a 2? Will he sneak into a 1? Is he going to really screw people and be a 3?
I think that's the hardest part of this. Is I think it just
that's hurts. What we're paid to do.
I think it hurts every receiver in the group. I mean, I don't think the Patriots. I don't think they bought Chris Hogan last year for him to just not play this year. I don't think they drafted Malcolm Mitchell and developed him for him to just not play. And I don't think Edelman's ever going to just not play. So I think we could see a Patriots offense that doesn't even have 1,000-yard receiver this season is something that could come out of it. I mean, we're going to see a bunch of these guys that are seeing valuable roles for the Patriots, but I don't know if they're going to see valuable roles for fantasy football. And I think they might all get overdrafted versus what they're going to do from a fantasy standpoint.
What are the chances? Because Bill Belichick does this frequently. He completely transforms his offense and he screws everyone because he's always one step ahead. What are the chances that he knows Gronkowski is dead and all of a sudden we see the Patriots just go 4 wide, fully spread it out, and just absolutely screw with everybody?
Dude, have you seen the videos of Gronk doing like the pull-ups and the?
I'm done. After last year with Jamal Charles and Brandon Marshall on the freaking treadmills, I'm done with athletes tweeting out their workout videos. No. I'm done.
He didn't tweet this. He was at some charity event for these pull-up straps, and I mean,
was he getting murdered by 250-pound linebackers while he was doing pull-ups?
No, but if you got a jacked up back, you wouldn't be able to do what he was doing. That man was like, I mean, Gronk's like in great shape, but yeah, I mean, obviously he could take a shot and that's it for him. So, as for his viability to take a hit, that we don't know, but I would say that he's recovering well, at least.
Sure. Well, and not here in the chat room has eloquently pointed out, they also made that sneaky move where they traded for Dwayne Allen, who also could be, he could easily be Gronkowski insurance.
Yeah. No, Naughty OM is the biggest Patriots fan you will find in all of Twitter land.
That's not good.
Scott, what do you think, man? I mean, where are you on the fantasy outlook here?
Yeah, I think this, just like with every Bill Belichick offense since the dawn of time, this is impossible to figure out for the most part. Just super, no idea. I'm going to bump up Tom Brady a spot or two behind Aaron Rodgers, maybe behind Drew Brees.
Dude, he's already undervalued.
Yeah, no, he's just loaded. Looks awesome. Brandon Cooks, I'm going to guess, gets taken before Julian Edelman. Does that sound right? Probably. But Michael Thomas, yeah, he's a lock early second round, which felt super early a week ago. Now that feels like a pretty good pick. But
Dude, Michael Thomas is going to make his way to the first round.
Yeah, he probably will.
I think he ends up in the second, but this also then unleashes my highly unjustified love for Willie Snead. I freaking love Willie Snead so much. I loved him last year, and stupid Michael Thomas had to come in and be a thing. And now that Brandon Cooks is out of town, now he has cleared the way. We got Michael Thomas, we got Willie Snead doing work. So I'm excited that Willie Snead gets to return to the promised land of what he should be for fantasy purposes.
I just hope that the Saints don't sign Kendall Wright.
Don't shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
But no, I 100% agree with you that Snead is a huge value right now until everybody catches on. So early MFL10s and things like that, dynasty leagues, Snead is
a trade literally just went through in one of my dynasty leagues right before we started podcasting, before I even had a chance to think about going and making an offer for Willie Snead. Someone already poached him.
He is totally a buy, and people don't realize how valuable he is in this offense right now. I mean,
so yeah,
go ahead.
I think Michael Thomas is locked into that Marcus Colston role as he was last season, but like better. Willie Snead, I love. He's one of those players who, went undrafted and now just continues to be underrated. We said going into last season, he was more efficient on a per target basis by almost every efficiency stat: yards per route run, yards per target, fantasy points per target, things like that. Super undervalued, underrated receiver whose stock just goes up. And to support my claims about Cooks kind of just taking advantage of slower corners, the Saints went ahead and signed Ted Ginn, who I know is maybe like 8 years removed from his combine, but he ran a 4.4340. He's an elite deep threat. Has terrible hands, but that's how the Saints are going to use him. We've seen a bunch of guys in that role before, post valuable seasons. But yeah, Willie Snead, wide receiver 2, Ted Ginn, wide receiver 3, and all those guys are solid best ball options.
Whatever. I'm going to whisper this because it's very
don't
controversial. You know what I'm going to say?
No.
Fleener. Kobe. The people in the background, they're chanting it. Kobe. Kobe Fleener. Any chance for Kobe Fleener to redeem himself?
No. No. Here's the thing with Fleener is Fleener's gonna win someone like a GPP next year, but he's also gonna put up like a lot of zeros throughout the season. So that's kind of how I feel about that guy. No, I mean, he is free though. No one wants him.
So here's the thing with Fleener is that the role is a hyper valuable one. The Saints kind of have that one tight end who just runs routes all day, doesn't really block, and anyone catching targets from Drew Brees is going to be super efficient unless you're as bad as Fleener was last season. But there's legitimate concern that he just might get benched in favor of Josh Hill. Last season, weeks 1 through 6, Fleener played 71% of the snaps. Weeks 7 through 12, played 43% of the snaps. Josh Hill, 17% of the snaps, weeks 1 through 6, and then 67% of the snaps, weeks 7 through 12, essentially replacing Fleener before his injury in week 13. He's just that bad, and we've seen from Sean Payton before make questionable free agency moves like CJ Spiller, super draft bust that people took in the first 3 rounds. So, I mean, there's legitimate upside there. There's also legitimate concern that he just completely busts.
We see Sean Payton make questionable moves as well with his insistence on Tim Hightower. And once again, you're talking to an Arizona Cardinal super fan, so I have a deep love for Timmy Hightower just buried inside of my soul. But when the dude keeps benching Mark Ingram inside the 5 for freaking Tim Hightower, I question everything this man has to do, including his breakfast and his lunch.
After getting benched in week 8, Mark Ingram posted 345 more rushing yards than Tim Hightower, yet only out-carried him by 28. That makes no sense.
You're a computer. How do you do this? Like, you're like, I've predicted the future of what Mike's going to talk about. I need to pull my Mark Ingram stats.
Yeah, I'm a freak. I know. Not the Jermaine Kearse. Who am I thinking?
Don't talk about Jermaine Kearse. Oh, don't. No, we're not going down that road.
You're just missing him muting and being like, Alexa, pull up my stats on so-and-so.
I said Jermaine Kearse, by the way, instead of Javon Kearse, which is like one of the worst mistakes in podcast history.
No, does it beat calling Evan Silva?
I was going to say, I've heard about the Silva mistake. I have a decent Evan Silva story if you want me to break this and add some levity into this podcast. Do you want me to tell that story?
Let's do it.
So if you're familiar at all with the fantasy footballers, Jason's kind of official nickname is Double Stuff. We have not so much anymore, but last year we talked about Double Stuff Oreos all the time because they're the GOAT. I mean, Double Stuff Oreos, don't even talk about regular Oreos when you're around me because Double Stuff is the way to go. And there was a period of time where we would ask our guests, which one is better. Do you prefer the original or Double Stuff Oreos? And we were Evan Silva graced us with his time. We were all super pumped to have him on the show. His spot was fantastic. We get to the end, and I'm like, all right, Silva, we got a really important question. Do you like regular or double stuffed Oreos? I'm not joking. There's probably 10 seconds of silence, and he's just like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, thanks, Evan Silva, for joining us on the show. He clearly does not care about cookies.
I'm about to break Cardinal Rule 101 of podcasting, where I'm about to make an inside joke and one that none of our listeners are going to be able to get.
You realize that my show is built on inside jokes. So that
that's true.
If you're reading that's Cardinal Rules, you're reading the wrong rule book.
All right. Well, all right, guys. Here's my Evan Silva impression. Are you ready?
Is that the Swolecast?
Well, he came on our pod too, and he was just like chugging gallon jugs of water.
The guy likes fitness, man. He's trying to stay hydrated.
All right. I mean, no disrespect to the GOAT.
No,
Evan
Silva's the best, man. He is the best.
For sure.
But he doesn't know how to field a question about Oreos. Don't ever ask him about Oreos, or he's going to get really mad at you.
Johnny, we're off the rails. This is typically your job to keep us on track. Let's move to the quarterbacks. Let's start there. I'm gonna get my disgusting Pedialyte vodka drink in a second, but I'm dying to know your thoughts on the biggest signing of the week potentially.
Mike Glennon.
Kellen Clemens re-signing $1 million deal with the Chargers. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
All right.
Dude, if you don't have Kellen Clemens stats ready to go, then I'm going to be so disappointed, and I'm leaving the podcast immediately.
We're not even going to. Why? I don't know why we're talking quarterbacks. Nobody cares about quarterbacks, man. Scott out here throwing me like a bad bounce pass.
Oh man.
No, we gotta talk about Brock Osweiler. We gotta talk about the Brosweiler trade.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I am so excited to see the Browns doing like I'm a big basketball fan, and these are the kinds of trades you see all the time in the NBA. A team does not want to have a contract to deal with. They don't want to pay the luxury tax. They just dump these dudes for random draft picks. And but like in the NBA, a second, a third round pick is like nothing. In the NFL, a second round pick is like legitimate. And the Browns are like, fuck it. We'll take this idiot for a second round pick. I like it.
Well, the best part is when they're going to actually be able to flip him again for whatever reason, if they're able to do that. And what's funny to me is, I completely agree with you that draft picks have this value in the NFL that it's like they are untouchable. Trades like this, you never ever see this happen, like a full-on salary cap dump for a draft pick. You do not see this happen. However, what's interesting to me is a guy like Brandon Cooks, right? First round draft pick. They traded up to get Brandon Cooks. I remember this because they traded up with my Arizona Cardinals the year that we used their draft pick to draft Smokey John Brown, an equal or maybe better talent than Brandon Cooks. I'm dropping fire on you. I apologize.
But does Brandon Cooks have sickle cell?
Well, hey, John Brown's fine. He's gonna be back. He's gonna be back next year. But anyways, my point is, like, they got him they traded up, so they traded away a full third-round pick for Brandon Cooks to get him with a first-round pick. They traded him for an end of the first-round pick and a move up from 15 slots, like barely, like essentially the draft capital was a complete wash. So it's just funny to me how much these NFL teams value their draft picks, yet players are worth garbage. I kind of derail this again of how I think that's so bizarre for the way that NFL management handles the value of a draft pick versus a known commodity. I mean, like it literally reminds me of how dynasty players value their top. Like, I have a top 5 draft pick in the first round. You're like, yeah, but I have a guy who I know that they're elite. This is an elite guy. They're going to be elite for 3 years. Like, yeah, but I have the 105. I will not trade my 105 for Julio Jones. Don't even think about it. I apologize. I've derailed this.
No. I mostly agree with that, except I think the Browns are...
I love the move, by the way. I'm with you.
I have faith in the Browns, at least. I mean, you think about the Saints, like they traded up for Mark Ingram, they traded up for Brandon Cooks. You know, they're a team that have kind of been screwing up the trade up game for the last few years. But the Browns have just been like acquiring picks. They've just been trading back, it seems like. And I think that they realize that they need so many players to be legitimate that they just want all the picks that they can get, and they can just sort of shotgun a draft.
And that's what they need to do. I mean, I love that these NFL teams and their scouts, they feel so confident in their ability. Like, well, I've got a first-round grade on that guy. He's an absolute guarantee. And just go look back at the historical bust rates of everybody. I mean, you have such a small chance of a guy actually hitting, even if they're a first-round talent. And the key is you draft as many freaking guys as you possibly can. And the new Cleveland Browns regime seems to understand that. So I desperately hope that they succeed and they can prove these ridiculous old man club in the NFL, just prove them wrong, that they feel like they know everything there is to know when they looked at an NFL player, except you don't. You're getting, if you get half of your draft picks right, you are an NFL draft scout god for getting half right.
In New Orleans' defense, they have kind of fielded one of the bottom 3 worst.
Here comes the stats.
In 3 consecutive years, at least. And no stats right now. And Cooks, I think, had 1 year left. They could have franchised him after that too, but so his contract was kind of expiring.
They had the 5th year option.
The 5th year, yeah. There you go.
Then they could franchise.
Again, my lawyer and contract guy. Can we talk about how embarrassing it must be for Brock Osweiler to have your team say, "Yo, here's a 2nd round pick. Just get him the fuck away from." That's like
Scott,
if you're getting divorced.
Is it more or less embarrassing than being benched for Tom Savage?
Oh, what a burn! That's arguably more embarrassing. But my comp was gonna be, it's like you're divorcing your wife, and she's like, "I don't want a divorce. I'm gonna get everything," and then you're just like, "Fuck it." Instead of like getting half of everything I have, just take 75%. Just get the fuck out of my face.
Do you understand how successful Brock Osweiler's wallpaper hanging company is going to be when he retires?
I don't catch this reference
because he's so tall, man.
Oh,
do you not understand wallpaper? You're so young that you don't even understand wallpaper. I'm on the wrong podcast.
Scott, I have seen these comments on Twitter the last couple of days, and Scott's been too busy tweeting stats. I've seen people bring up wallpaper hanging that the Browns actually brought. Someone tweeted that the Browns brought Osweiler in to remodel their locker room, something along those lines.
Dude, that joke would have slayed my podcast. And meanwhile, we got Scott over here. I don't get the reference. What are you talking about? Because Scott's like 17 years old. Look at that face.
Well, you didn't get the Tom Savage reference.
Oh no, I get it. I choked it back. I choked it back because I'm a professional, Scott.
All right. Just making sure. Johnny, who's the next quarterback in our list?
None, dude. Let's move on to things that matter.
Oh, come on. We're not
Mike Glennon's the starter. Come on.
Yeah. We got to talk about Mike Glennon.
If you want to move right over to B. Hoyer, throw in 100 receptions to my man Pierre Garcon in San Francisco, then we can do that. That's fine with me.
But you guys let's talk San Francisco quarterback situation.
Yes.
I think it's gonna. Kirk Cousins is gonna start there next season. Didn't mean to cut you off, Johnny. Every quarterback wants to play there. It's the most quarterback-friendly system. He just turned Matt Ryan, who was supposed to be mediocre for the rest of his career, into the MVP. He's a genius. I love him. And whoever's going there is at least a low-end wide receiver, QB2, I think, despite of how devoid of talent that roster is. Your opinion, Mike?
You want to talk some? I have some stats. I have some Scott 11 stats right here.
Let's do it.
2008, Matt Schaub in 10 games, he was averaging 17.2 points a game. He was on pace to be the quarterback 5. The following year, led the league in pass. And these are years where Kyle Shanahan is the offensive coordinator, if you didn't gather that. And this is the Texans. 2009, Matt Schaub leads the league in passing, quarterback 4. 2010, Kyle Shanahan moves over, joins old Papa Shanahan. McNabb and Rex Grossman combined, the quarterback 12. Then there was a little bit of a rut with Rex Grossman and John Beck. So 1 year, one down year. Next year, Robert Griffin III, quarterback 5. The greatest rookie quarterback season to that point too. There you go. Next year, it was a dismay. It was Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins. It was a disaster. Followed up by Brian Hoyer and the Cleveland Browns with Kyle Shanahan. It didn't go well. The first time around, it didn't go well. I admit this. Matt Ryan, first year, had to learn the system. But then, as you pointed out, the next year, quarterback 2, absolutely dominant, by far the best year for Matt Ryan. I'm with you, Scotty. I love Kyle Shanahan. I love his offensive system. I love it for quarterbacks. I love it for running backs. I love it when he decides that one wide receiver is going to be the man, a la Pierre Garcon, 2013, led the league in receptions. I mean, I understand that the talent, it's gone from San Francisco, and that's so fantastic for fantasy players because the common fantasy player is going to go, San Francisco, they're not very good. They don't have anybody. Meanwhile, Kyle Shanahan's going to pull something out of his butt. Somebody there is going to be very valuable, and they're going to come in the 8th or later in fantasy drafts.
Yep. And the best part is that they have like $100 million in cap space to just...
Yeah, they might not be done.
Yeah. They're definitely not done. Like they have the cap space to make trades during the draft as well.
Yeah, that's very, very possible as well. Scott's looking up stats right now. I know. I see that face.
I mean, they're all in my head.
The problem, my only concern with the San Francisco quarterbacks is that we see them signing a couple guys. You know, they brought in Barkley, they brought in Hoyer.
Cutler's coming. Cutler's next. They're going to bring all the Chicago guys over.
Or we see them drafting someone at some point. We could see them end up using 2 or 3 quarterbacks throughout the season, which hurts in best ball leagues.
I love that, Mike. I bet Chicago passed over on Kyle Shanahan for John Fox as head coach, and now he's just going to reassemble the quarterbacks to take him to the playoffs.
I don't know if he's still in the chat room, but Jeff Fisher. This is like an SAT type level question, but Jeff Fisher is to JJ as John Fox is to me. I detest, I loathe John Fox so much, so very much.
Not looking up stats, did you know that Chicago posted the second worst winning percentage of their 96 season history?
I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I mean, this guy is an old curmudgeon. I mean, you insist on Jeremy Langford being your guy. You draft a talent like Jordan Howard. How are you not in training camp watching going, wow, that guy might be pretty good. Well, you know what? He's a rookie. He doesn't deserve to play. Jeremy Langford has earned the spot. You're like, how about we play the guy who's better, John Fox, from the start? I mean, there's a lot of progressive coaches who do that. And you know what they do? They win games. They go to the playoffs, John Fox.
He doesn't get it, man.
He's the worst.
He really is. He really is. And Scott took a lot of shit this offseason. I mean, I guess most of the shit went to Mike Clay, but Scott took a lot of shit for just saying that John Fox was a sort of a running back shitstorm, and that at the same time that he didn't trust rookies, so the Jordan Howard thing wasn't going to happen as quickly as people thought, which was also true. It just turned out that Jordan Howard was so much better than we all expected. So that kind of came out of left field a little bit. But as for San Fran, I don't know. I struggle to think that I can pick one of those guys in a best ball league in the summer and know that they're going to be my quarterback for 16 weeks. As for if you're streaming quarterbacks in a redraft league or in DFS, I think the San Fran quarterbacks are going to be super valuable this season. I think they're going to be really cheap and easy to acquire, and they're going to get you like 3, 4, 5 startable weeks at a time at super cheap prices. But Pierre Garçon is the guy that I really want. That's who I really want.
Yeah, especially assuming that San Francisco doesn't draft another wide receiver. Throughout Kyle Shanahan's entire history as a coach, his wide receiver ones have completely dominated. Julio Jones, he had 1871 receiving yards in 2015, which was the second most all-time by a wide receiver. Mike brought up the stat about Garçon leading the league in receptions under him. Andre Johnson hit career highs in receiving yardage and touchdowns under Shanahan.
Here's the question: was Andre Johnson the GOAT, or was it Shanahan?
No, it's Kyle Shanahan always, and he's also the running back. He's also the running back GOAT. So, what up, Carlos Hyde?
Yeah,
and convenient segue into Kyle Juszczyk.
You tried, dude.
Check.
I had an exclusive. I talked to Kyle's mother, and she didn't know how to pronounce his last name either. So you're okay.
Awesome. How was Kyle?
You got it. You got it right the second time.
She's all right. It's Kyle J. This is what we go. We go back to like third grade, where if you cannot pronounce Hey, shout out to this guy. If you cannot pronounce the teacher's last name, you just shorten it. So it's Kyle J. Makes it easy.
I'm doing this as a favor to our listeners because every time I mispronounce a name, which is at least 4 times every episode, everyone gets a drink. So that's the
Oh, nice.
It's
very nice.
It's Juszczyk, but he definitely goes by Juice. And I think someone's in here out here typing some names in chat. I had to anyways. So I think he's a little bit of a problem for Hyde. I don't think people are realizing what he brings to their offense. He's not going to he's not going to take targets away from tight ends. He's going to take targets away from running backs because he plays that hybrid fullback, running back, tight end role where he mostly played. I mean, in Baltimore last year, he played as a running back. He played as a third down running back. He kind of played a Danny Woodhead role. And that hurts a guy like Carlos Hyde, who is not particularly studly in the passing game.
I would contest that. I think it takes. I mean, those targets are already gone. I mean, we dubbed him the Big Salad on the Footballers podcast because Sean Drone, he was just sometimes there's these guys where they're fantasy vegetables. You want nothing to do with them. However, they give you vitamins. They give your team strength, like Sean Drone did a couple years ago. And he, as far as I know, he's gone from the team. I mean, he's 29 years old. He's not currently signed. And if those receptions just go to Kyle, the juice master, then I'm perfectly fine with that because Carlos Hyde will still be fantastic. I've seen several running backs with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, you can just go back to last year. Devontae Freeman, absolute domination. Tevin Coleman didn't get on the field as much, absolute domination. I mean, Carlos Hyde is good. He's just a good running back. Get him a good offensive scheme that Kyle Shanahan provides, especially for his running backs and his wide receivers ones. And I love Carlos Hyde, assuming that he can stay on the field. This guy needs to get some of that. I don't know. He needs to hit up GNC and get some of those vitamins that keep him on the field, and not the kind that take him off the field, a la our boy Kenny Dixon.
Oh, great segue.
You're welcome. That's how the professionals do it, Scott.
What? Oh my. Kenneth Dixon, I think his fantasy stock has taken quite a dive this week as the team signed Danny Woodhead to a 3-year deal, and he also was suspended 4 games for a PED violation. Johnny, you're the resident Baltimore homer. Where do you stand on Kenneth Dixon and Danny Woodhead right now?
Baltimore's never been a team that's like really supportive of their guys that get taught for this stuff. I mean, it's just not something that they're like willing to wait around for. You look at the tight ends that they've had who have gotten, hit with this stuff over the last year or two, and they just, they're not really all that supportive. And then, I mean, you look back to the Ray Rice thing when that happened. I mean, they're not a team that really like values the running back position for one thing, and they're not a team that really is out there to stand up for their guy unless it's like, the face of their franchise, Ray Lewis. If you killed a man and you're Ray Lewis, they'll stand behind you. But
allegedly.
But if you're Kenneth Dixon, I mean, they have no reason to really like get behind this guy. And I think everybody's really stoked, like, oh, I'm going to get this big discount on Kenneth Dixon right now. But I don't know if that's necessarily worth it.
The thing to me about Kenneth Dixon is, what is he? They've tendered Terrence West for an original round value, which means 3rd round. Which means, and so facto, Terrence West is going to be a Baltimore Raven more than likely next year. So let's talk about value for a running back. Goal line work, the passing downs work. If you're splitting time with a guy as a first and second down guy, you have no value to me. You have no value as a fantasy running back. And Danny Woodhead he's quite possibly the GOAT when it comes to 3rd down work. I mean, he is tremendous. Sure, I will concede the point. He's coming back from a very debilitating injury. Danny Woodhead has done it before. He's the kind of guy who has had to earn literally everything that he's ever had in the NFL. So I do not doubt the fact that Danny Woodhead can come back from this injury. And I don't doubt the fact that the Ravens have inspected him and said, okay, he's healthy. He can play. We're going to bring him in. We're going to give him money. He's our 3rd down guy. Oh, and by the way, Danny Woodhead is also pretty good on the goal line because he's so small. He's just like this sneaky little Ant-Man who just sneaks into the end zone. So if you have, meanwhile, you have Kenneth Dixon, who provides almost no value to me. You've had just a tumultuous offseason of John Harbaugh saying, well, we need to get a running back in here who's going to do great things for this team. Very much spitting and slapping the face of Kenneth Dixon. And then they go and they add Denny Woodhead. So that gives me just great concerns, not only this year for Kenneth Dixon, but moving forward, which is an absolute disaster and a shame for me, because watching Kenneth Dixon on film, the guy's fabulous on film. But I feel like for the Baltimore Ravens, if John Harbaugh does not like you, you're done. You are done for that team.
Yeah, but I think John Harbaugh does like him. Do you know why I think that? Yeah, why? Because at the Combine, he said, quote unquote, "I love Kenneth Dixon. I expect him to be a top back."
You disconnected right while I was making my point of literally a month ago when he was saying, we need to add a running back who can get it done. I don't have the verbatim quote right in front of me, but essentially it was John Harbaugh consuming a giant Chipotle burrito, getting a little indigestion, and then releasing that all over Kenneth Dixon.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Harbaugh doesn't control personnel on this team.
That's also true. That's true.
Yeah, but he does control playing time. The GM does not. And so
I don't think you realize how much control Ozzie has on this team.
So he said this at the Combine. He knew Kenneth Dixon was going to be suspended at the Combine. Did they go out and draft a top back? No. They drafted a 32-year-old injury-prone white guy who only plays on passing downs.
And goal line.
And
he actually is awesome by the goal line.
Yeah, that's right.
He is really good. Yeah.
You didn't want to admit it.
He's great.
Do you remember last year? Back it up. Yeah. Do you remember last year when I told you that Ozzie Newsome really loved this Towson kid, this local boy, this running back that they just barely missed in the draft? He went to another team a couple picks before they wanted him, and then all of a sudden he was a free agent. And they scooped him up. And he was somehow their starter for 16 weeks last year. Do you remember that guy?
Not all 16. And he also wasn't very good. And he had little competition.
But did he play on the team for 16 weeks? Is he still there?
Hold on. You got to give a name to your podcast listeners. Not everyone is tracking what you're talking about. Come on, fellas.
I know.
Terrence East? Or is it West? Either way, that's the direction he runs in when he's playing football. Not North, East and West.
So Scott hates Terrence West, and Scott is still mad that I recommended that everyone play Terrence West week 1 of the preseason on Daily Fantasy, and he was the highest scoring preseason running back of the week.
Are you a Buck Allen supporter or something, Scott? Is that what's going on here?
No. I was a Buck Allen hater.
Okay.
I was a Kenneth Dixon supporter, and not really a Justin Forsett truther, but slightly more than Johnny.
Oh man, I wish, man.
I told him he was getting cut.
I wish we could turn back the hands of time for Justin Forsett. I like him a lot. I think he's a good dude, and I think he's a pretty good running back.
He ranks 3rd over the past 5 years in average yards per carry, behind only Le'Veon Bell and Mark Ingram. Makes sense.
But and I go back to this every time. I have to fight this with Scott a lot.
I know.
The year that Forsett blew up with Baltimore, they had arguably the best offensive line in football.
That's true. But he also ranks top 15 all time in yards per carry. But yards per carry is also not a good stat.
Anyways, Kenneth Dixon only had 2 games of 12 or more carries last year.
Yeah, I mean, he was coming back from a serious injury, suffered in the preseason. He honestly came back sooner than most people expected. That might be due to the PED suspension.
Why is this dude a thing, man? Like, why did everyone assume that he would automatically be like a 200 carry running back?
So he was fantastic in college. He ranked out of all running backs coming out, he ranked 2nd in PFF elusive rating. And he ranked top 5 in yards per route run. Last season, he was awesome too. He led all running backs in forced missed tackles per attempt and forced missed tackles per touch. He ranked top 12 in yards after contact per attempt. Needless to say, Terrence West got blown the F out in all these stats and yards per carry when compared to Kenneth Dixon. But again, if he was roided out when he was doing this, that doesn't really matter.
Didn't Eddie Lacy a couple years ago like absolute dominate the PFF elusive ranking?
He did, yeah. He was doing work after contact, and
he was doing work at the buffet too.
Well, I don't think this was fat Eddie Lacy year. I think this was good Eddie Lacy year. That
I'm just busting your balls, man.
That's true. That's true. I'm still kind of an Eddie Lacy truther, another free agent.
You're talking to one of the OGs, man. Me and Eddie Lacy were best friends forever. Me, Eddie Lacy, Tony Horton were a triangle of friendship.
Well, I follow him on Snapchat, and I've done so for like 3 years, and the past 6 months I have seen him 0 videos of him eating Chinese food. So
did you slide into his DMs?
I tried to get some scoops. I'm like, hey, who you signing with?
Dude, you can
Snapchat's a video of him eating Ben and Jerry's by himself, watching Bridget Jones's Diary too.
There was a legitimate NBA scoop on Snapchat the other week. I don't know if anyone follows NBA. Ty Lawson was Snapchatting out to his people like, hey, where's the best like taco joint? Everyone's hitting him up with this taco place. He goes to the taco place. He's like tweeting at or like Snapchatting out pictures of his tacos. The next day, he's questionable with like gastrointestinal issues.
What?
So you gotta follow your people, you know?
Did people send him to Taco Bell?
No, they sent him to like some like taco truck in like Houston or something.
Wait, I plead a complete ignorance on basketball here. So he was on the road?
Yeah, they were on the road, and he was like,
he's on the road, and he's asking people where he should go to eat.
Yes.
Oh, dude, if someone from the San Antonio Spurs, if Kawhi Leonard is freaking like, hey, where should I go to eat in Phoenix? I am sending him somewhere to die. I mean, this is a giant mistake. How do you not know this as a professional athlete that anyone who is for the opposing team wants you to not play?
That's awesome.
No, okay, all right. I was wrong. He was at home. He was at home.
Well, the point still stands that there are many people who want him to die.
Yeah, he was new. He was new to Sacramento at the time. So his Snapchat was, "Where's a bomb taco spot in Sacramento?"
Ooh, in NorCal, trying to get those tacos.
Questionable with stomach issues. Yeah. No, you can look that up. It's a real thing. It's funny as shit.
Why are we talking free agents when the only free agent we've covered so far is Brian Hoyer? Have we even covered anyone?
Should we talk Alshon Jeffrey?
Oh,
are we done with running backs? Orleans Darkwa, CJ Spiller, Fozzie Whittaker.
The running back market has been very quiet.
Yeah. We should definitely talk Jonathan Stewart, I think.
Jamal Charles, Adrian Peterson, Eddie Lacy, Latavius Murray, LeGarrette Blount, Rex Burkhead, all unsigned.
Okay, the only one that makes me sad is Rex Burkhead.
You like him? You're a fan?
Yeah, I think the guy. I'm not declaring Rex Burkhead needs to be a number one, take over, be a 3-down guy. I'm just saying that Rex Burkhead deserves a chance to be a solid backup. And you know, like I'm talking Charles Sims level of backup. Give the guy carries, give the guy targets, and let him do some freaking work because Rex Burkhead can get it done.
Yeah, he can have a Woodhead role, man. He did it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, my dynasty teams will be very happy about it.
I agree.
I may have a conflict of interest here.
So here's my big question. I think this is a big one, and it's one that I don't think is being talked about. Those other guys, they're not signed. We don't know where they're going. I think that the Panthers re-signing, they re-signed Fozzie or did they re-sign? I can't even remember who they re-signed, but I think them
Payne.
They
lost
Tolbert.
Tolbert.
They signed him, did they?
No, these signed Fozzie.
I think it was Fozzie, but I think I think by re-signing a backup running back, I think in my eyes, that just cements that Jonathan Stewart's going to be back as their lead back for another year.
If that logic holds, then do you think Doug Martin's back because they signed Jaquiz Rodgers?
The starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, I think Quiz Rodgers.
I
think Quiz Rodgers could start over Doug Martin. That's the problem. I don't think Fozzie could start over Jonathan Stewart.
Okay. Yeah,
I see the chat. I see you, Kenneth, talking about Burkhead going to the Chargers, and I would love that. Oh, I would love Rex Burkhead filling those Danny Woodhead shoes. Just absolutely destroy all the Melvin Gordon truthers when Rex Burkhead is stealing passing down work, stealing touchdowns. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah. I'm getting sweaty thinking about it.
Nixon's our Jags fan in the chat. Nixon's actually, famous. He was a singer in Framing Hanley.
Oh,
tell him to do a new intro for us. Yeah, I'm not getting excited about Rex Burkhead. Oh, actually, yeah, Mike, why don't you do an intro for us? Yeah.
What kind of intro do you want?
I don't know.
We're negotiating on the air right now. What kind of intro do you want?
Work your magic, man. If you don't know this at home, Mike used to be a video game designer, and he used to do the little like
the little. I will punch you in the face next time we meet, Scott. The little.
the big grandiose
yeah, you're darn right.
Soundtracks. Yeah.
No, my previous life, and I guess still my current life, is a musician, because I do all the drops, I do all the audio stuff for our podcast. So if you guys want a different intro, we'll talk after the show.
All right. Are you in a band, Mike?
I used to be the front man for a band for many years.
What's the name of that band?
We were called Serling, as in the last name of Rod Serling, the creator of The Twilight Zone.
Do you like The Twilight Zone?
I have The Twilight Zone tattooed on the entire right side of my body.
I've been marathoning it for the past 4 weeks or so.
Oh, it's great, man.
How do you feel about Black Mirror?
I like it. I would say I'm like 4 or 5 episodes in, but I've enjoyed it thus far. I think it's a spectacular show. I think they're making some really, really excellent social commentary. I think it's very interesting so far.
How are you guys so far behind?
Dude, I think I finished it. I think it's one of the top 5.
It's called 3 Children, man.
TV shows I've ever seen ever.
Whatever, man. They can watch. It's fine. They won't understand what's happening.
For listeners at home, don't have children. That's your takeaway. He used to be cool. He used to be in a band, and not anymore. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I used to be cool.
No, check out his band Serling. I have not heard it, so I can't vouch for it.
No, there's no way you've heard it, man. We were only local AZ. But so look into the screen right now. This is your future. Get ready for this beard. Get ready for this hair. Get ready for this disaster of a room behind you, because this is your future.
I like that TV. Is that for sale?
It is for sale. You want it?
Yeah, a little bit. Nice callback to before we were on air that no one's going to get right now. We're off the rails a little bit. That's right. Running back, yeah, that position sucks. I don't want to talk about John Kuhn. I don't want to talk about Mike Tolbert. Although that signing really doesn't make sense to me. Don't want to talk about Barkwood, Spiller. Wide receiver is a fun one. Johnny, do you want to talk about your baby, your little
my Alshon Jeffrey baby?
Oh, that's not Kenny Britt's name.
Are you want me to talk about Kenny Britt? Dude, I can't decide who I'm more excited
about. You haven't shut up about Kenny Britt for the past 6 months.
I look, Kenny Britt is exactly where I expected he's going to be. He's a value in the probably 8th to 10th round range. On the Browns, he's going to be a target monster. He's going to get 130 plus targets. I'm not like overly excited about Kenny Britt in this landing spot, but I like it.
I feel like Kenny Britt must have been a serial murderer in his past life. that have to go from Jeff Fisher's Rams to the Browns.
No, Kenny Britt is smarter than every athlete in the NFL because he understands.
Because he went to Rutgers, my alma mater.
This is what you have to do. You become best friends with your coach. And if your coach is a man who, for whatever reason, like he got fired this year, but up until this year, I mean, this guy should have been fired for 5 to 10 years. But this guy could hold the job because Jeff Fisher also understood you just become BFFs with one person. If you become BFFs with one person in power, you're good to go. This is what life is all about, people. It's not about how good you are at things. It's about who you know. Jeff Fisher knew one person. Kenny Britt knew one person. And so facto, Kenny Britt remained employed forever.
Mike, were you friends with your last boss?
Very much so. My last boss is on my podcast.
Yeah, I like this career advice. It worked out well for Mike. It worked out well for Kenny Britt.
Yeah, my boss is my dad, and we don't get along.
The only thing better than being friends with your boss is being son to your boss.
I do not advise having your boss be a family member.
We're also law partners. It's a weird dynamic, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but a story for another day. No, I mean it's like it's a good landing spot for Britt, but I don't think it's a great landing spot for Britt. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And I don't know. I've been like a Kenny Britt truther for like since he tore his ACL in Tennessee, like a million years ago. I'm happy about it, but I think that people were already overvaluing him a little bit this offseason, thinking he was going to like go to some amazing landing spot, which I was probably pumping a little too much myself. Do you have any thoughts on Britt, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I posted some really neat stats about him, how he led all wide receivers in adjusted wide receiver rating, which just
I like that you have to add adjusted in.
It just means that
if I tweak the stats however I want to do it, I just adjust them, and I made Kenny Britt amazing.
I mean, it did.
I'm not crap. I like Kenny Britt too. I'm questionable about the landing spot. I wish he would have gone somewhere else. But the Cleveland Browns, we saw Terrell Pryor. He was the only show in town. With an emerging Corey Coleman hurt as a rookie. So I mean, maybe Corey Coleman
also
can still
not
be
good.
Oh, is that what we're doing now? We're gonna bury Corey Coleman. The guy hasn't had a chance.
I think Scott might be with me on this one. I don't know.
Oh no. Did you guys see him on Sports Science? I mean, you brought up the treadmill video of I can't remember who you were talking about, but Corey Coleman on Sports Science was very impressive.
Do I have to take this with myself, Scott?
I mean, you're trying to talk about Sports Science when my avatar is Matt Jones, who's arguably the most athletic wide receiver of all time, maybe only second to Calvin Johnson. So I'm not falling for that trap again. I like Coleman. I did think Pryor was better last season. But with regard to Kenny Britt, yeah, he was just a diamond in a dumpster fire. If you look at that team's passer rating, whoever they threw to was just horrifically inefficient, except for Kenny Britt, who did really well despite everything that sucked in that offense. And I think honestly, as crazy as it may seem, Cleveland's a significant jump up for him. So I do like his prospects. But Johnny, yeah, you want to defend your guy?
I want to defend against Corey Coleman being like special. I mean, man. The thing about Corey Coleman is he had what, one big week last year.
Yep.
I think
who was it against, Johnny?
I'm not even gonna say his name, but he was the worst Ravens cornerback we've ever had in Ravens history.
Sharice Wright.
I can't do it, man. I can't do it, man.
Sharice wrong.
As a fellow member of the Wright clan, boo.
Oh,
boo. You might as well
Shaq Barrett's awesome. What's wrong with you Wrights over there? David Wright, Sharice Wright.
I'm saying you go with the wrong joke. I mean, you might as well have the wrong and the left joke. I mean,
I know. Oh man, why'd you got to point that out?
That's trash.
So
that's garbage. That's my kids telling a joke.
We don't hire writers like you do.
Yeah, I hire myself. I cost a lot of money.
So did Sharice Wright for whatever reason. So if we look at the games that he did not play against Sharice Wright, he had 69, 41, 17, 39, 38, 26, 24, 15, and 40 receiving yards. If we exclude his first week where he only had 2 catches, then he had a high of 13 yards per reception. But when he played against Sharice Wright on that side of the field, he caught 5 of his 8 targets for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns, which were 2 of his only 3 touchdowns on the season. I am not that impressed by a guy who beat who I consider the worst cornerback in the NFL in his only game that people cannot seem to forget.
Yes, I'm not ready to bury Corey Coleman yet. I won't say I'm all aboard the Corey Coleman train, but it's hard to evaluate a rookie wide receiver who has a new quarterback basically every other drive of his career. So I'm not all off of that. I feel you. I feel your pain as you get that homer burn, and it's tough.
I just struggle with a guy who only smashed my shit secondary, you know.
I'm trying to remember the rookie that the Cardinals had. I'm pulling up a depth chart here to figure it out. But we had a guy. What's his name? I'll find you. You guys go ahead and talk. I got to figure this out. Oh, Brandon Williams. You don't need to talk anymore because I found it. Brandon Williams. If you want to debate of worst cornerback than Brandon Williams, then I think you're going to need to build up a very large case.
I will direct you to my Sharice Wright.
And I will direct you to Brandon Williams week 1 against Jimmy Garoppolo. You know why Jimmy Garoppolo is getting all this freaking trade talk nonsense of people are going to give up 2 firsts or going to give him a maximum contract because of freaking Brandon Williams on the Arizona Cardinals. That's why people love Jimmy Garoppolo.
Cardinals were definitely bad in the secondary too. I'll give you that. I will give you that.
It was one of us. It was the rookie.
Thank God Corey Coleman didn't get the opportunity to test him.
He would have torched him.
Scott, do you have any thoughts on Corey Coleman? I know you were with me on this earlier on. Are you backing off on it?
No, I agree with you, but he's also still a rookie with bad quarterback play. But I think that's an awesome stat that no one else was talking about. And as for worst cornerback seasons of all time, that would be Sharice Wright and Antoine Valentino Blake of 2015. But agree, both those cornerbacks.
What's the minimum games played?
Those guys both played 16. So
yeah, okay. Brandon Williams didn't make it the full 16.
I think even still, spot 1 game. Those guys were atrocious.
It wasn't just one. It wasn't just one, Scott.
All right. Never forget the the horrific events that have unfolded due to this cornerback's poor play. Or do we want to just go completely off the rails and not talk free agency? Because
we had a natural transition, man.
All right, Alshon Jeffrey.
No, Scott. We were talking about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
we talked about Kenny Britt has signed with the Cleveland Browns. He's replacing Terrell Pryor. News broke slightly before this podcast that Terrell Pryor is joining.
I have so much to learn from you.
He is the newest member of the Washington football team. Come on, man.
Right. Yeah.
You like that?
I do like that. I think, the Redskins already had a pretty nice wide receiver depth chart. Even after losing Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, they had Crowder, they had their first round pick from last season. But this kind of surrounds Kirk Cousins finally with comparable options, and I think he is going to lead the team in probably targets and receiving yards. Jordan Reed's still there too. He is going to be their deep threat in a Deshaun Jackson kind of role, but I think he's a capable possession receiver as well. Johnny, what are your thoughts on Terrell Pryor?
Well, I got to jump in here.
Yeah,
the first you called him the first round pick. Is this like a Voldemort situation of he who should not be named? You better not be clowning on my boy,
Josh Doctson.
Yes, yes.
I think it's just that his name couldn't come to me, but what is there to be excited about Josh Doctson and his 3 targets last season? 5 targets.
Yeah, I mean, we have incredibly small sample size for Josh Doctson. This is still just basing it off of his college film, basing it off of his location, and the fact that I think Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback.
Washington doesn't.
Yeah, Yeah, Washington just fired their general manager.
Oof.
And you have, it's a disaster there. Because you're talking about a team that gave up everything for Robert Griffin III. Meanwhile, you have Team Shanahan, who's like, we should probably draft this Kirk Cousins guy because I think that he's pretty good. So they had to they allowed him to get on the team, and they had to make this fight for years and years. It finally pays off by the time that Shanahan is gone. Cousins comes in. Look, I know that he had some interception problems when he started, but like he was a rookie. Like, I don't care that it's his 3rd year in the league or whatever. Fine, yeah, but it's his first year really starting. You're going to have rookie growing pains with a guy who has not started multiple games in the NFL. And then meanwhile, you come back. I believe it was Alex Gelhar who pointed out that Kirk Cousins has led his team to the 6th most wins in the last 2 years. I mean, you're talking top 6 in wins, and a lot of that has to do with Kirk Cousins. So I think it's just an absolute disgrace that this team will not embrace what they have, the luck that they have. You know how many teams in the NFL are just looking at Washington with a franchise quarterback, just shaking their head furiously, just giving them the middle finger, saying, screw you guys, you have a franchise quarterback, you won't even treat him like one.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Cousins as you are, but I am a huge Scott McCloughan truther. And I really think that Scott McCloughan with a .20 BAC is better than 95% of the GMs in the league, and that was just a terrible decision letting him go. The Redskins just posted back-to-back seasons over 500. The last time they did that was 20 years ago. That's ridiculous.
And they're like, they want to abandon it.
Yeah, no, it makes absolutely no sense.
What about the rumors that like it was the Shanahans who wanted Kirk Cousins? Like it wasn't him.
I don't doubt it.
You know what I mean? So like, what are the odds? What are the odds that the Shanahans were the ones who were like making these good draft picks? Like, you know.
Well, McCloughan wasn't with the team when RG3 and Kirk Cousins were drafted.
Right, but I'm saying we look at was it him that decided that Kirk Cousins was going to suddenly save their franchise, or did the Shanahans do it before they left and now everyone's sort of giving him credit for something that he didn't do?
Oh, Scott had to lean back in his chair. He wasn't sure how to handle that one.
No, I'm just not sure what Kirk Cousins' starting role was, but I know he did make the decision. What was it, 2 years ago or the year before last, when his first year as GM, that he was going to roll with Cousins and surround him with solid depth, and he did that. Maybe not all of it should be a credit to the GM, sure, but he did do a good job outside of drafting Matt Jones. I think that was the one pick he got wasted for. But yeah, I like him. Cousins is going to be a solid fantasy option this season. So is
God, I hope he's a 49er, dude.
I think he will be next year.
Meanwhile, I'm over here just like crossing my fingers of Terrell Pryor and Kirk Cousins coming down to Arizona after next year.
I don't know about Arizona, but if Cousins goes to the 49ers next year, he's going to be definitely a franchise quarterback for years to come in that offense.
Yes.
Kurt. All right. Terrell Pryor. What about Alshon Jeffrey, who I want to talk about before? Johnny, I know that's your guy, so I want to hear your take.
Yeah, I mean, Alshon has always been like my dude. I mean, I don't think this is a great spot for him in the sense that I don't think the Eagles are really a vertical offense. I think Alshon has always been a guy who excels in a downfield passing offense. I think he can be a mid to intermediate to also deep route kind of guy, but I don't think that he's going to have as much opportunity there as he did when he was fully healthy in Chicago. So I think this is kind of a knock on his role. I don't know. I mean, what are you thinking, Mike?
I'm frantically trying to pull up the Alshon Jeffrey splits with Josh McCown, because if my memory serves me correctly, he played quite well with Josh McCown as opposed to my good friend Smokin' Jay Cuddy in those couple of years.
Oh yeah, he was great.
Yeah, so from 2013 to 2014, he got to play 9 games with Josh McCown, and it's not a drastic split. Are you talking about 3 PPR points higher? And in my brief research time, I'm not factoring in, the Brandon Marshall injuries in Chicago when he was on the field at the same time. The Twin Towers were getting it going. But I love the move by Philadelphia. I was as a kind of I was a Torrey Smith truther for last year, but that's more so because I just felt like Chip Kelly could get something out of him. That took an absolute turn for the worst once preseason showed up and Torrey Smith was getting 0 targets, so I had to tuck my tail between the legs and just completely back off of it. However, in Philadelphia, you got a young franchise quarterback. You gave everything for him. Get the man some weapons. Torrey Smith was not the answer to be a 1. However, Torrey Smith as a 2, Jordan Matthews in the slot. I mean, if Carson Wentz can't succeed with those weapons at the wide receiver, then Carson Wentz is not long for this league.
I agree with you. I think Wentz is the guy that I think gets the biggest boost out of all of this. Not that I'm stoked about him. I know our boy Pano is.
Oh, is he? I mean, I tried. I went back in and I tried to bump Carson Wentz's stats even after the Alshon signing. He was still a low QB2 for me. I don't see. I can't fully endorse, that huge bump coming. Oh, there he is. There he is in the chat. QB1 upside.
I mean, Scott. I mean, do you think that Alshon is going to have the wide receiver 1 type of role that he had in Chicago? That's my concern. That there are mouths to feed in Philly, and if they can, I think they're going to run the ball. I mean, I think Peterson is still a running coach.
I think you're right, but that kind of predicates them drafting a running back now or signing Jamal Charles.
I was going to say, who's running the ball for them?
Yeah.
I don't know if he cares. He just kind of ran it with whoever last year at the end of the year.
Well, he cares because he had the GOAT Ryan Matthews and he just abused him and threw him to the side like he was a piece of common street trash.
That was so bad, dude. And then when he gave the couple games he gave him like 18 carries, he's like winning people millions of dollars in DraftKings tournament.
Am I with Ryan Matthews, fellas?
You are with some Ryan Matthews fellas.
Yes. I stand alone always on my podcast, and I have to climb the mountain while everyone's just throwing rocks and boulders and stones upon me as I try and climb the mountain that is Ryan Matthews and try and spread the truth that he is a freaking good running back.
I'm a fan. I know Scott's a fan.
I mean, you probably should have got more carries last season.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Thank you. Where's one of those like incredible like? Well, when Ryan Matthews touched the per opportunity, he scored 150% over the average running back. Where's that? Where's that at, Scott?
I actually have one. If you want to give me 2 minutes.
Yes. As long as it's very, very positive for Ryan Matthews, I will wait.
Oh, it's super positive.
Yeah, no, Matthews is great, man. No. I mean, I think Philly is just going to be in general an improved offense, though. I think offensive line is a concern for them. I think they need to get that shit under control. They had some serious problems last year with the O-line. Pete Davidson, Rotobahn, just said Ryan Matthews had neck surgery at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I know.
He did not know that.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, he's coming off a really serious neck injury, which is very unfortunate. Ryan Matthews was a beast. He had I'm looking at just, like inside the 10, 55 carries for Ryan Matthews. And when he got the opportunity, he was scoring touchdowns. He was if Scott's pulling up I'm sure something that will trump anything I have to say, but I felt like he was a fantastic running back, really got it done, was very efficient.
Does anyone know what kind of surgery he had for the herniated disc?
Herniated disc surgery.
A herniated, like,
not a doctor.
Herniating a disc, like, you could have like a pretty simple surgery for that, or you could have a serious surgery. I don't know. I will have to look into that. That will be something we will definitely discuss on a later podcast.
But I agree with the chat here. Was that Pete? Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to cut him. He's only going to be $1 million dead cap money. I don't see any way that the Eagles keep him.
It depends. If he had like a discectomy or something simple like that, then he might not be a big deal. But nothing I can find lists what actual surgery he had. So I don't know. I got nothing right now. Scott, you got anything?
Yeah, he ranked top 5 from a fantasy point per snap basis in every season of his career except for 2.
Yes.
And one of those he finished 5th. So the rest of the time it was like 1 or 2. But yeah, that's my Ryan Matthews stat.
I bathe in your Ryan Matthews stats.
All right, what guy are we on to next?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's move on from Eagles.
Stills. Oh no, Garcon. Let's go back to Garcon.
Back to Garcon?
Yo, he's going in like the 12th and 13th rounds of MFL10s, which is not good.
We should stop talking about Pierre Garcon, so he remains remains there.
Moving on.
That's a pro move right there.
Kenny Stills re-signing with Miami. You were talking about inside information. Yeah, you were talking to Kyle Shanahan's mom. Leonte Carew's cousin, because I went to Rutgers, follows me on Twitter, and I'm like, "Yo, off the record, like, so what went wrong last season?"
Hold on. Is this public or is this DMs?
This is DMs. I was off the record.
Ooh.
And
you realize that
this is a Power Hour podcast exclusive, guys.
You know that you're on the record right now, giving off the record.
Oh yeah. And he just gave me like the worst, like
it was a he.
The worst platitudes of all time. He was just like, like the team drafted who they drafted, so like it was an uphill battle. You can't expect much from a rookie guy, but his work ethic is unparalleled, and I'm like, ugh.
What they drafted, who they drafted, they paid up to get Carew.
I know. But he was saying Parker's a first round draft pick. They're saying Landry was the wide receiver 1 because he's been so good.
Landry's.
It didn't add up. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be like Gase is a mother, but I didn't get that. So.
Yeah, it was a nice ride there for the Leonte Carew truthers when.
Oh, I'm one of them.
When it looked like Kenny Stills was going to move on, and you're like, yes, yes, this is the time. Carew is going to shine. And then it was like the Dolphins are still not sure that Carew can be their wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And now Kenny Stills is back for a lot of money. And Carew is in the corner, buried in a handkerchief, covered in his own tears.
Oh, and mine. I think we shared that.
It's about where we ended up. So we've gone from me pretending to be a doctor and Scott pretending to be an inside source.
The new Adam
Schefter.
Schefter.
Going well, fellas.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
We were doctors.
Exclusive.
We were doctors for a little bit on Ryan Matthews' neck.
Oh, I love when Johnny does that.
Here, so I'm a workers' compensation attorney, and we have. If I had to say the number of clients we have on file right now between my dad and I, it's probably 600-700, and the amount of people who have herniated discs is probably close to a third of our clients. And it's like a herniated disc can be nothing, or a herniated disc can be like really, really bad. So you see these NFL players end up with like a herniated disc, and Twitter's like, herniated disc, this guy's dead. But you have no idea like the severity of their injury, because we aren't getting anywhere near the information that we need to be getting for these kinds of injuries. So like with the Gronkowski, like the back surgery, we knew he had a back surgery, but like there was no information as to like what kind of back surgery he was getting for a while. So it's easy to overreact to the kinds of surgeries that we're getting. It happens a lot. And Scott has doubted me in the past, but I do know a good bit about what the hell I'm talking about with some of this stuff. Just saying. But
there's crickets chirping in the background.
But for Ryan Matthews, there is no information.
How come you're like a pretend doctor now, but when I send you dick pics asking if this is infected, you never reply?
Those aren't standard workers' compensation injuries, dude.
You don't know that I wasn't working.
You might have been, man.
Oh no! Scott's second life has been exposed.
Oh man, no.
We're off the rails, folks.
Whew. Oh, but no. I mean, if you want first class like injury information, Jeff Budoff with RotoViz is the guy you want to ask first. If you want to ask me pretty simple surgery related questions, I'm not stupid. I'll just go that far. But let's go to the next person. I mean, who's next, Scott?
That would be Brandon Marshall, who signed with the New York Giants in a 2-year deal worth $11 million.
Ooh, this has been a battle.
Oh, okay. Give me the lay of the land. Who's on what side?
So go ahead. No, go ahead, Scott.
We've talked about Brandon Marshall, I think every podcast we've had since the start of the 2017 year. I think we're kind of even. We're both like, Brandon Marshall had terrible quarterback play. He wasn't that good. And the concern is that wide receivers kind of don't have this gradual fall off. They just have they hit this cliff and then they completely fall off of it. And Eli Manning kind of looks like someone who might have hit that cliff already or is about to. So there's definitely concerns there. I think it was a great move for the Giants. What he paid for, I think the only better deal so far was Terrell Pryor's. But we're both kind of split on this. Mike, what about you?
I love it for the New York Giants. I think it's a tremendous pickup. It's Mr. PFF. I don't know if you have this stat readily available, but we talked about that on the Footballers that Brandon Marshall had one of the lowest amount of actual catchable targets.
It's another stat that I posted. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, Jason probably took it from you. So I mean,
worst rate in the league, and it was like about 20% percentage points off of his 2015 season.
There you go. The best part of our job is when we just sit back and we, just keep refreshing Scott's timeline, and we're like, oh, that's good. Put it in the show.
I'm like really concerned that if I took 2 weeks off of Twitter,
the footballers will be done.
I know.
It will be done. It would be a crumbling heap of us just, that guy's really good. What do you think? Well, I think he's pretty good too. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence to back anything up. But I think it's great. I mean, it's for the Giants saw an opportunity that's not even necessarily football related. Brandon Marshall's straddling that fence of professional football and his next career. I mean, he's already doing it. Chicago did not like it. It worked out for the New York Jets because that's where he wanted to be. He can do his television show. And now guess what? He doesn't even have to do anything with his home. He's not going anywhere new. He's not learning where the newest, Whataburger is. Do you guys have Whataburger? That was a really weird reference to pull out. Where are you guys located?
I'm in Maryland.
Hardee's. Does that work?
That's too south for me.
No, I dragged Scott to Waffle House when he was here.
Okay, we can go with the new Waffle House.
We have Five Guys, yeah. If you want to.
Oh, dude, Five Guys is the
Shake Shack.
Five Guys is the. Oh, don't even talk about Shake Shack and Five Guys in the same sentence. How dare you?
Drunk girl from my high school just crashed into our Five Guys, like into the front of their building
because she was trying to get freaking bacon cheeseburgers because they're so amazing from Five Guys. I don't blame her at all. Trying to skip the line. But now Brandon Marshall doesn't have to find a new Waffle House or anything. I mean, he's still. Oh, TJ, I see you. Whataburger's the GOAT. Brandon Marshall doesn't have to figure out anything new with his life. He gets to continue his NFL career while maintaining his next career in the media, and it's spectacular. I mean, you saw so many times the Giants. Odell Beckham, fantastic, but I mean, one guy could not do everything for the offense. I mean, he does about as much as he can as far as everything is concerned, but it's still the NFL. You got to have more than one guy. And Sterling Shepard, sure, it would flash. I think he can grow as a player. He will be very useful in the NFL, but you still needed another guy on the other side of the field. Go get Brandon Marshall, who I believe he still has something left. Maybe it's not the Brandon Marshall we're used to, but if you recall, his last year in Chicago, everyone was calling ringing the death bell for Brandon Marshall back then, and then he went on to have basically his best statistical season of his career with Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing in the ball. I agree with you, Scott, that Eli Manning is running on fumes. Saw him last year, unbelievably skittish in the pocket. He looked like me playing an NFL quarterback, just terrified at times, despite playing behind what Football Outsiders has ranked as one of the better passing offensive lines in the league. So I love this move professionally for the New York Giants. I think Brandon Marshall is a nice wide receiver too. I think this does absolutely nothing to Odell Beckham except positive things. Gives him more scoring opportunities, keeps drives alive, gets him more yards, more touchdown opportunities. So I like this move completely. He was unbelievably cheap for the Giants. What you said, 2 years, $11 million. I mean, that's crazy cheap for a wide receiver who can give you something like Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned his TV show and his home. He wanted to go to the Giants. He, about 5 days ago, changed his Twitter avatar to a picture of a Giants player holding up the Lombardi trophy. He definitely gave them a discount. And this, no matter what, even if it's the worst Brandon Marshall we've ever seen, he's not going to be worse than Victor Cruz, and he's not going to be a worse fit than Victor Cruz was. The Giants last season had Odell Beckham Jr., and then they had 3 slot receivers. They had Dwayne Harris, Victor Cruz, Sterling Shepard. Shepard played 98%, ran 98% of his routes in college from the slot. Victor Cruz, 95% of his routes during his time in the NFL were from the slot. Dwayne Harris, same thing, slot receiver. So this finally gives them a big guy on the outside. And I've heard since Eli Manning was a rookie that he thrives with tall wide receivers. Certainly was the case with Blaxico Burress, but outside of that, really he hasn't had too many tall wide receivers. Brandon Marshall is a guy who's, not going to get much separation, especially now at his advanced age, but he is great at the catch point, can go up and make some nice catches. I do like the signing as well. From a fantasy standpoint, where would I have Brandon Marshall? Probably high wide receiver 3 range, I want to say. And you talk about Odell Beckham Jr., how this is only better for his efficiency. Odell Beckham Jr. posted one of the best seasons in recollection in terms of forced missed tackles per reception. Another thing, too, is something I look at is wide receiver rating, which is just passer rating when targeting a wide receiver. Usually guys with a high target market share have really low efficiency because then quarterbacks are just kind of like chucking it up to them no matter what the coverage is. He was still one of the top 10 most efficient wide receivers. So Eli Manning could have actually peppered him even more with targets, and he still would have been the clear best option for Eli Manning almost every single play. But yeah, his efficiency goes up. I'm excited about him. Johnny, where do you have Brandon Marshall, and what does this do for OBJ in your opinion?
Marshall was a guy that I was like originally off completely this offseason, but this is one of the landing spots that I don't hate for him. I thought he looked bad last year. I watched a lot of his games. He struggled. And he's a kind of guy, like, he's not a Larry Fitzgerald where you can put him in the slot and he's going to catch every ball who's thrown his way. One thing, like the one area that Marshall has struggled with in his career is drops. He's definitely had drop issues. So he's not a guy you want to be like that late in the career possession strength type receiver. But as a wide receiver 2 opposite, a top 3 receiver in the NFL, I think he can still thrive in that kind of a position. So I like Marshall. I still want to see where his, average draft position settles. I think if you're going to get him as like a late wide receiver 2, early wide receiver 3, I think that's a value. But I think if people are going to take him like in the 3rd or 4th round of drafts, I don't want him. If I'm going to get him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round of drafts, that's probably where I'm interested in taking it.
Sorry to interrupt here because this has nothing to do with your very valid points. YouTube is throttling my comments. We're having a very vicious and very quick-paced back and forth here in the live chat talking about fast food burgers, and I'm getting throttled. They're shutting me down. I mean, what is going on here? This is Bush League, and I demand a recount. I want a new chat service immediately.
Actually, speaking of a new chat service, what a perfect segue into our sponsor today, Johnny.
Oh, so I have to do it? Okay, all right.
Dude, give me the read.
I don't even know what it is.
Give me the read, man. Who's the sponsor of the show?
We're sponsoring it. Don't. Ugh.
Our current sponsor is My Fantasy League, and we are doing.
They're spectacular.
We are doing.
Mike, you do the read. My Fantasy League, go.
Well, here's the deal. If you're starting a new dynasty league, if you're starting a new fantasy football league, you got to get to myfantasyleague.com. If you're not, you're doing it wrong. If you've never experienced an MFL10, you're doing the off season completely incorrectly. Look, you check with your local laws, make sure you can get in those MFL10s, but they're unbelievable. Do you want everything customizable? You think you can do that with any other fantasy league provider besides myfantasyleague.com? The answer is no. That is incorrect. You cannot do that. You need to go to myfantasyleague.com, start your leagues, start your dynasty leagues, get everything moved over there immediately because they're the best.
Wow.
That was very good.
Johnny.
And what we're doing is My Fantasy League is going to hook us up with some free MFL10 drafts for the podcast. So all of our guests who we've had, including Mike, are going to be part of some MFL10 drafts as long as they're legally allowed, which apparently Mike is not legally allowed to do. So if Arizona suddenly becomes allowed to do it, then he will be included in one of our MFL10 drafts. So
I was talking about the Shaq slap, by the way.
That's what I was getting to. So what we're going to do is we are going to start a premium Slack chat.
Leave a 5-star review on iTunes, you fucks. Now, Johnny, go.
That's not the best way to get 5-star reviews.
It works. I'm telling you.
So we are going to start a premium Slack chat, and our guests who we are bringing on are going to be invited without charge to our Slack chats, and we are going to charge nothing crazy. We are going to give MFL 10 advice during the MFL 10 season, and when the NFL season starts, we are going to start with DFS advice for the DFS NFL season. And basically, if you guys want to torment Scott and I outside of the live chats, we are going to be fully available to be tormented 24/7. And our guests are going to be available to essentially watch us be tormented. And we're probably going to look into, some miniature sessions to bring in some guests to do, like an hour of so-and-so to give you some advice, this and that kind of stuff. So we're going to open that up. We're going to get it set up this weekend. We are going to send out some links after this weekend, and we will give everyone the heads up on how that's going to happen. It's not going to be very expensive, and you're going to get a chance to give Scott and I shit for all of eternity. And I know everyone is interested in that.
Dude, you're not even bringing up the best part of Slack. If you're not familiar with Slack, the GOAT of communication, it's called /Giphy. /Giphy. You type any words you want, and it goes to Giphy.com, and it grabs you a GIF related to your search term. It is unbelievable. I communicate with basically no words except for animated pictures in our chat.
Yeah, I can confirm
he's just
Mike
giving
is amazing at GIFs.
He's just giving you guys a reason to make our lives even more miserable. And Scott, you got anything else to say about it?
I just like that Mike pronounced it correctly, unlike you.
It's shifty, but we're all good.
No. If you tell me that someone on this show is driving the train of GIF, I will disconnect immediately.
It's GIF. No, it's GIF.
It's GIF. Look, so what? Okay, the person who created it, fine. You want to come out 30 years after you've created a product and you say, well, actually, it's pronounced this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the public. And the public has deemed it called a GIF. It is a GIF. Deal with it. I mean, there's nothing else you can possibly say to defend the pronunciation of GIF. GIF is peanut butter. GIF is an animated collection of images.
I'm just gonna hang out here while we continue on.
Okay, so GIF, the acronym. What does G stand for?
Graphic.
Oh, that's weird. That starts with a G. GIF.
Weird, but it's also they use JPEGs for it, which starts with a J.
Because it's a J.
Is it called a JPEGIF? It's called it's .gif, man. It's .gif.
I don't know.
Hey, Johnny,
my GIF creator man said it's a GIF, so I just roll with him, I just roll with that man who created it.
I was gonna say he's just got an elaborate troll going.
John, if your dad started referring to you as Gone, does that mean we have to now too? Your creator.
I mean, if that was like on my birth certificate, that would suck.
John is,
John is. I don't think there's pronunciation on birth certificates.
Deceased.
Huh? It's because it's up to the whatever.
I'm just gonna keep linking this man's video of him saying GIF. I'm just gonna go from there. You guys want to talk free agency though?
Not really. I'm really enjoying.
You are the phantom toll booth. You're trying to move the gigantic mound of dust with a pair of tweezers. This is never happening.
Nice reference.
Oh, you like the phantom toll booth reference?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the doldrums.
Oh yeah.
Chapter, yeah.
Yeah, literary nerds.
I was an emo 5th grader when I read it. Apparently.
Oh please! Did you have the hair like the half one eye? You look like a pirate.
Of course. Just listening to My Chemical Romance so sadly.
Black Parades is a masterpiece.
just when we were all getting
We have to be on pace for your longest podcast of all time.
Oh, you have no idea.
we have pushed 3 hours, I think.
Oh, have you?
On a DFS podcast.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I can't do. I think my kids are trying to sleep in the other room, but whatever.
That was a long time ago. That's not a real thing, though. That's not a real thing. We don't do that anymore.
Martellus Bennett to the Packers.
Yeah, this will be a nice quick conversation.
I mean, he's Jared Cook, but good in all of the ways that Jared Cook was not good. Huge improvement for them. I love it. I think he's going to be pretty valuable for fantasy. Mike.
Yeah, he'll be very, very valuable because Aaron Rodgers loves throwing the ball to the tight end. I just went full on Wayne's World on you.
You're welcome. You got me.
Yeah. Like, I mean, sure, he'll have his games. He'll be erratic. He'll be maddening. You will never ever know when to start him, and you'll be like threading out the best DFS lineup. You're like, this is the week. Oh man, this is Martellus Bennett. He's gonna score 3 touchdowns, and Martellus Bennett is gonna go 0 for 0 that week. It's just all he's going to do is destroy hearts and destroy dreams.
Well, this is luckily sponsored, this episode, by MFL10s, which are a best ball format, which means his erratic nature is irrelevant. Arguably, that upside helps your team. So, but yeah, no, I think that's a great point.
Those 2 weeks are going to be great.
I think that's right.
I agree. I think he's gonna get overdrafted. Like, I think people are gonna think he's gonna be like a thing.
Well, I mean, he's going in like the 13th, 14th round right now.
Right now, because people were thinking he's like undrafted, but now that he's like a Packer, the dude's gonna be like a 9th or 10th round pick, and fuck that.
Yeah, but Jared Cook was going in the 13th, 14th round
because people weren't sure that he was gonna be a Packer. People didn't know. Like, I was taking Jared Cook in like the 16th because I thought like he might be a thing.
I mean, more importantly, we got to get to the real story is where is Jared Cook going to go and where so that people can continue to believe that Jared Cook will be a thing.
It's over. It's over.
But unless he signs with.
Oh no.
No, dude.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's over.
It's over, man.
We're gonna throw out Jacksonville.
No,
it's over. It's over. It was fun while it lasted, though. That was like a sweet DFS.
Sweet 2 weeks of postseason DFS.
That was a sweet catch. That one catch.
Oh my god, that was the most.
He didn't drop catch. The one.
That was like, you remember we mostly faded him that week, Scott. Remember?
Because he sucks. Yeah.
He scored like 8 fantasy points on that catch because it put him over 100. It was like a 40-yard catch. It was plus the PPR.
But he had 4 drops. If DraftKings started awarding negative points for drops, we would have broke even.
It was that was rough. Anyways, no, the Cook experiment
is good,
over.
Though. That's the thing. I think he's really good.
Bennett?
Oh,
Bennett's great.
He is a tremendous real life NFL.
This is the best tight end Rodgers has ever had. Jordy Nelson.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you insult Sir Michael Finley like that?
Oh, yeah. Not a germ fan. Jordy's turning 32 this season. Devonta Adams, I'm not really a believer in him. He had a very, very easy cornerback schedule last season that no one's talking about, and he just beat up on bad corners and got annihilated by the good ones. Randall Cobb is coming back, but again.
I pose this question: is Randall Cobb coming back? And 2, won't Devonta Adams face a similar level of cornerback? I mean, he's always going to be. He's James Jones, man. Like, I feel like the fantasy community, we wanted to bury James Jones forever, and all he did was score touchdowns. I mean, you have the best quarterback in the league. You have Jordy Nelson, one of the best wide receivers in the league. Someone's got to get open. Aaron Rodgers, his numbers of throwing in the red zone are just, they blow away everybody else on a percentage basis. It's just, there's going to be scoring opportunities there for Adams. I'm with the train I'm with the public consensus that perhaps Devonta Adams is not that good of a wide receiver. Doesn't matter, because to me it does not matter. because I believe that opportunity destroys everything else inside of fantasy football. My man Trent Richardson will speak to this. Give him an opportunity to score, and he will give you fantasy points regardless of his talent level. So I'm still fine with Davante Adams moving into next year.
So that was a great argument, Mike. But are you sure he's worth drafting over Randall Cobb?
Yes. Yeah. I think that the time has come for Randall Cobb. I mean, so like we always, we want to point to drops, and you're like, well, this guy's inefficient. Aaron Rodgers has spoken with his targets of what he thinks of Davante Adams, and he thinks that he is still worthy of getting those targets. He thinks that he is still worthy of making that difficult pass to him in the end zone, because he thinks that Adams has a chance to come down with the ball. Jared Cook was there for most of the season. I know he was hurt, but I think he played 10 games and basically did nothing for the entire time. Richard Rodgers does nothing. He had no run game, and he's like, hey, Davante Adams, you're the guy that I need right now, because I can't throw 100% of my passes to Jordy Nelson. And he pulls him aside. He says, trust me. If I could throw 100% of my passes to Jordy Nelson, I would do that. But you're here, so you're going to get some. Where's the stats? Here comes the stats from Scott. He's gonna scorch my face with some inefficiency stats.
No, this is a legitimate question, because I really don't know. I know Randall Cobb was hurt last season, and I know he was also hurt the season before.
He's hurt every year.
Yeah. No,
that's always his excuse. How many good years has Randall Cobb had?
2 of the last 3 at least.
Let's say as many as Davante Adams, right?
All right. So, but you used Rodgers targeting Davante Adams as like the crux of your argument. But last season, Cobb only had 1 fewer target per game than Adams, and he was dealing with those injuries where Adams was not.
What about the red zone targets? Davante Adams had 24 red zone targets, which actually puts him number 2 behind his good friend Jordy Nelson, and consequently, he was number 2 for red zone receptions. I mean, that's why I'm okay with Davante Adams.
So you more than anyone else knows that red zone targets is a terrible stat, and really
red zone. But that's scoring opportunity. I'll move it up even further. Which a funny story in which we told Scott about this. We were literally in Footballers headquarters. We're like, man, we're looking at some numbers. You had tweeted out about some efficiency of how the red zone is not necessarily all that, and then showing where the spike is. And what we noticed from your research was like, once you hit the 7-yard line, the 7 is when things have a noticeable statistical jump. And we're like, that's a pretty good stat. What would you call that? And you're like, well, if it's not the red zone, it's got to be the green zone. And we're like, this is freaking fantastic, man. And so I started launching into all this research about guys scoring inside from the 7. And it's like the numbers are staggering, that when you have an opportunity from inside the 7 as compared to everything else, your touchdown percentage goes way, 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 way up. And then we look back, and freaking Jeff Ratcliffe had published an article about what he dubbed the green zone just days ago, and our entire research was destroyed. Well, at least as a proprietary stat. I mean, the research still stands as good. And so to speak to that, this is from the 10, but Davante Adams was still second from inside the 10 in touchdowns and receptions. He was third inside the 10 or tied for second, I apologize, in targets inside the 10. I feel like that's where Aaron Rodgers is going to go. He's going to go to Jordy. He's going to go to Davante Adams.
All right. So here's the thing with that. Great points all around. Jordy Nelson and Adams both rank top 7 among wide receivers in end zone targets per game and targets inside the 10 and 20-yard lines per game. Great scoring opportunities. You know what they didn't have? They didn't have a running game whatsoever. They didn't have Eddie Lacy to pound the ball into the end zone. They didn't have a 6'6" tight end like Martellus Bennett with insane red zone, end zone efficiency. What they did have was Davante Adams, who over the past 2 seasons leads the league in drop passes on end zone targets with 7. The next closest player has 3, implying that they might be better off just never throwing to him in the end zone because he's shook. He can't handle those targets. I don't know.
Absolutely might be. No, I totally get it. I totally get the dropped stat. I know that. So I was saying I agree. He might not be the best, but I mean, its actions speak louder than words, and all of Aaron Rodgers' actions say that he's going to throw the ball to Davante Adams until they replace him in Green Bay, and I don't think that's going to happen in 2017.
Johnny, Randall Cobb versus Adams at price points.
At price point?
Oh, you're going to throw in some variables. That's trash.
I just cheated. Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, at price point, I'm taking Cobb. So
what's current ADP?
It's bad, man.
Is it huge?
Adams is like 4th, right, or 5th round?
He's pretty
I would
high.
gladly take him there.
Cobb is double digits, man.
Yeah, I would still gladly take.
Really?
I'll take Adams in the 5th. A guy who could be a wide receiver 1.
He was the worst wide receiver in football just 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. Well, in 2 years ago, that's a completely different team because Davante Adams, they looked at him and they said, Jordy Nelson tore his ACL. Young man, you have to be our number 1. His shoulders were not big enough to carry that burden. He's a number 2. There are guys in the NFL who are just meant to be a number 2 wide receiver. They're not built to be the superstar. However, when they have a great player on the opposite side of the field, they can thrive and be excellent. And he's in. I mean, we talked about the numbers of a team where they throw it. Maybe they do get a running game next year in Green Bay. Perhaps they do. Maybe they get Fat Eddie back. Ty Montgomery was okay. I mean, you don't like yards per carry, but his yards per carry, I believe, were up over 5. He excelled in his opportunities, but when you're the Green Bay Packers and you have the best quarterback in the league, how do you stop throwing the ball? I don't see it happening. Where there could Davante Adams let you down at that price point of a 4th round pick? It's possible, but if you're going to give me Davante Adams in the 5th round or Randall Cobb, I can't. Where did you say where he's going?
You guys ready?
Yeah,
Adams is going 36th pick.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
73rd.
Oh,
okay.
Wow. No, that's way too high.
Yeah, I don't want to take him right there. But my argument still stands. I'll take, if you're just going head-to-head, no matter what, Adams or Cobb, I will take Adams.
I will take the odds on Cobb outscoring if someone gave me good odds to bet that. I would.
Yeah, you're going to take the odds. Yeah, you'll take the odds. But I'm talking about there's no odds in fantasy football. There is 1-to-1.
I would take that same odds on Kenny Stills outscoring Devontae Parker. I don't know.
Yeah, that's if you want to talk about, because I love Kenny Stills.
I like those. I think those are 2 legitimate arbitrage. You know, everyone talks about arbitrage so and so, yada yada, and that's like a fucking overwhelmed word that's used in the fantasy football community. But I think 2 guys who might be like actual arbitrage could outscore their counterparts are Cobb and Stills.
Yeah, I want to go back and actually watch tape on Cobb just because 4 years ago he averaged 18 fantasy points per game.
How many years ago?
4 years ago. 3 years ago he averaged 18.
Did you drive 4 years ago, Scott?
Oh. Ouch. All right. Next player. I'll take the L.
That was a low blow. I stand by it. I stand firmly by that.
Oh,
I'll take the L. Next player.
Oh man! All right, who is next? Do we want to talk? Let's just talk Bennett then. Where are you taking Bennett, man? Where do you want to take Bennett?
I think he's on that fringe, low end tight end 1 range in the Jack Doyle area. I think you're right. He probably gets drafted above that.
Oh, there it is. Because Scott was saving the trump card of the Jack Doyle conversation for the back end of the podcast. I will take Martellus Bennett, assuming that I'm wearing some kind of protective clothing because after I barf all over myself, then I'll draft him because I've completely punted tight end, and I just don't care. And I was like, whatever, you're good enough.
From a redraft perspective, that sounds about right.
That's where I come from. We come from completely different situations. I assume, are you guys talking? You're talking like, and where would you take him in an MFL 10?
He's going pick 130-ish, but I think that changes pretty quick. I mean, I'm definitely taking him 130-ish.
Yeah, it's gonna. I guess his current ADP, whatever the numbers are on him right now, they're gonna you just blow those up because those are irrelevant.
Yeah, but I think he's gonna be a value for the next week or two, at least. I think he's a guy you can get in like the 12th, 13th round, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round, and be cool with it. What do you think, Scott?
We talking about Doyle?
No, Bennett, dude, Bennett.
Why are we still on Bennett?
Yeah, Doyle rules.
Okay, where do you want Doyle, Scott?
4th round.
Yes.
Oh my
He rules.
God.
He's a Doyle.
Yes.
No. He's they're both low end tight end ones to me. Mike gave me a little bit of shit for some Doyle stats I posted. You can check it out on my Twitter.
No.
For being of a small sample size.
No, you're legitimately misunderstanding me.
Oh, okay.
My point of I don't give a crap about small sample size. I'm telling the public that. I'm telling them, give me all the Jack Doyle.
Yes. Yeah.
The one, like, it was one game, fine. It was one beautiful game. The air outside was a cool, misty 78 degrees. Everything was perfect for Jack Doyle. I don't care. He's with Andrew Luck, who's I don't want to get into this argument, but like whatever, top 5 fantasy quarterback across the board, a guy who loves to throw to his tight end. They just shipped Dwayne Allen out of town. They just shipped a Scrooge McDuck size load of gold bullion to Jack Doyle. I don't care if he's a dad runner, if JJ's still around. I don't care if his measurables are garbage. Andrew Luck is going to throw him the ball. He's going to catch it, and he's going to give you at least low-end tight end 1 fantasy points. He'll be very interesting to watch ADP-wise, though.
Yep.
I think he's going to be undervalued for a while, and I'm ready to scoop him up.
Yep. I agree. His current ADP is 160-ish, but that's gonna go up quick.
I'll take that.
I think he's still gonna be a value in like the 10th, 11th, 12th round where people are gonna be a little hesitant. So you might as well take him.
Are you guys? Yeah, we just got it in the chat from Laker Great One. Swope or swoop. I'm not actually 100% sure how to pronounce it. I believe it is spelled swoop and pronounced swope because the world hates us. But are you guys worried about him at all, or are you looking at this like the Dwayne Allen, Kobe Fleener years where they were both still pretty productive, one a little bit more than the other? How do you feel about that?
I don't care about him at all.
Deep dynasty stash, not someone I'm drafting in MFL10s.
No, don't care. I mean, I'm not going to keep pretending that like the backup tight end is going to ruin the starting tight end or not in Denver, in Indy forever. Like it's not just going to keep happening. I don't think. Eventually they're going to find that. I would hope not. Eventually they're going to find the guy. And I think Doyle is much more of a pass catching tight end than Allen was last year. So I'm not.
Dude, just look at what Fleener did there. End of story.
Scott, are you a Fleener fan?
No.
I've heard otherwise as of 2015.
So I tried to make Michael Floyd a thing and try and trade him to you. I wouldn't even have I own Fleener in our mutual dynasty league, and I wouldn't have the gall to propose anything with him in it.
Fair enough.
All right. Thanks for not bringing up 2015. All I gotta say. Yeah.
I don't know who's next. I mean, are there any other big names to talk about? I'm not sure. I feel like we hit a lot of the really important
I feel like we
ones.
missed a lot of guys. Deion Sims to Chicago potentially hurting Zach Miller. Don't think there's much to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's you got to. I liked Zach Miller. I got him on my dynasty team. He was very delightful for those first couple games, but. We want Sims to be a thing, but I mean he's a tremendous blocking tight end. You have Mike Glennon. I actually don't know Mike Glennon's tendencies off the top of my head, and I don't have Scotty's ultra fast computer in front of my face giving me Mike Glennon tight end percentage targets. But I mean it wasn't high.
Yeah, in the red zone too.
Okay, so I still think it would be Zach Miller. I mean. Zach Miller has already proved himself to John Fox. We already kind of covered how John Fox is the ultimate curmudgeon of, well, you got to prove it to me. I mean, and Zach Miller, I think, has proved it to John Fox that he can be a very solid pass-catching weapon. Meanwhile, Alshon Jeffrey, their best pass-catching weapon, just left town, unless you want to count Cam Meredith. Yeah.
We're all fans of Cam Meredith on this pod.
That's good because I like him too. But I mean, Zach Miller won't be involved. I'm not worried about Deion Sims cutting into that.
Yeah,
nope.
I think that's a fair assessment. Johnny, as we all know, hates Deion Sims because Deion Sims ruined him in DFS a few weeks in a row. Cincinnati re-signed Brandon LaFell, 2-year, $9 million deal, meaning he's worth a late round stash in best ball formats only, and then worth a stash DFS pick if AJ Green goes down. Jeremy Curley signed to a 3-year, $10.5 million deal. Again, he's going to be another round 19, 20 MFL10 guy with value. I hope you guys talked about Torrey Smith because I don't want to talk about him. Dallas re-signed Terrence Williams and Bryce Butler. Both those guys, again, round 18, 19, 20 MFL10 picks. They're whatever. We brought up Ted Ginn. I like him more than any of those other guys. Michael Floyd's still a free agent.
That's so weird.
He's worth like at least a 1.03 in Dynasty. Right, Johnny? Please.
That is the best.
I'll keep trying.
We've had to field legitimate questions of people asking if we've ever tried to devalue a player on the air for our own personal gain in our leagues.
No, Scott sends me a text and he says, "Hey, I sent you a legit offer. Take a look at it for your 1.0. Is it 1.03? 1.03. It's actually a good offer. Take a look at it."
Give me the offer. I gotta hear it.
It was like Floyd in his fourth for my 1.03.
Dude, I'm trying to get Christian McCaffrey.
I was like, "Are you actually like, you think this is legitimate?" And he's like telling me about Floyd as if I don't know who the fuck Michael Floyd is. I'm like,
he's a really good wide receiver.
And it's just like
he had this one season. Let me tell you about it.
I don't think I've ever been more offended by a dynasty trade offer in my life.
Trade deals are the best when you have to explain to your trade partner why this player is so good, yet you want to get rid of them.
It was so bad that I didn't even deny it. I just left it sitting.
Oh, that's the ultimate move. I get asked, like, well, how do I deal with someone who sends me a bad offer? I was like, you just leave it there. You just leave it in purgatory. Yep.
Teach him a lesson.
See, Scott? Someone agrees with me.
Oh, no, I agreed with you.
I said that on our Dynasty pod, and everyone was like, what an asshole.
No, man, you got to handle it. You got to send a message.
Johnny absolutely hates Dynasty with a passion.
Yeah, I've followed that. I've heard that.
Yeah, but you don't have DFS in Arizona, right?
That is correct.
So you don't get it. You don't get why it's so superior to Dynasty.
You can't light $100 on fire on golfers, man. Different.
Yeah, I win my money at a much slower pace.
It's a different animal, you know. No, I mean Dynasty's fun, but I don't know. I just think a lot of people take it way too seriously. That's my issue.
Wait, but you should take DFS more serious,
dude. There's a lot of money to be made in DFS.
I know, but there's certainly a lot of money to be made. Not DFS money, but I mean, you can go to Vegas and get in those super high stakes leagues. I mean, it's out there.
That's actually true. Yeah, I mean, it's a slower like dollar per hour.
Yes,
expected value.
Yeah, your heartbreak can be much larger.
Yeah, I come from a poker background. It's
the poker DFS convertees.
I come from a Pokemon background, so. Guys, did we talk about Fozzie Whitaker?
We did.
Yes, I said we should.
Waka Waka, we mentioned him.
We should buy John Stewart.
What about Kellen Clemens? We gotta talk about him.
Yeah. I don't think I remember his name being brought up.
I think we actually didn't talk about Mike Glennon.
We sort of did.
A serious take on him though? Like where do you take him? Is he just Brock Osweiler 2.0?
Yes.
Oh, come on. Now.
He's better. He's better.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But he's still like a bottom 5 or 10 guy. For sure.
It's so tough to know on Mike Glennon because I mean his numbers.
I feel like
and
you're about to like tell us about like you're about to like sell to like me, the new girl, to like date your friend who's like not dateable.
No.
Who looks like Mike Glennon with his weird ass gigantic head?
I mean, his neck is just his neck to head ratio is very interesting, very intriguing. No, all I'm saying
like
is
the Muppet Beaker.
Me. That
yes, guy? That's him.
I think that Mike Glennon. I just think he deserves a chance. I don't know if he deserves that much money, but the phrase of he doesn't deserve this money, you got to it's irrelevant every single year because the salary cap continues to go up. So your idea of what a guy should be paid changes every single year. But just to me, his numbers, his film, they to me show a guy who should get another chance. And the argument of Tampa Bay took somebody else. Well, Tampa Bay had a chance to grab what they felt was an immediate franchise quarterback in Jameis Winston. So I do not fault at all a franchise in saying, well, this is a move that we have to make. All I'm saying is I think Mike Glennon deserves a chance. While saying that, in my rankings, I mean, I have him a mid to low level QB2 for the season. I just think I said, just give him a chance, man. Just give him it's Mike Glennon.
Can't ever do it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think he is capable of like doing what they want him to do. I guess. I think he's good enough to like that. I want Cam Meredith and Zach Miller, but I don't think he's good enough that like I want him. Scott,
paging Scott.
I will take him in some MFL10s for sure. Yes. He's got a starting job locked up. He's got Cam Meredith, Kevin White, two.
How late?
In. Yeah, he might be the last quarterback on my draft board, but who had feel comfortable starting.
The last. Okay. I was like,
I mean, so in basketball it's different. So like starting two quarterbacks, the last one I'd feel okay starting two possibly would be Mike Glennon. Definitely not much of an upside there, but I think the floor is there. I think it's going to be hard to see Chicago go with someone other than Mike Glennon, assuming he stays healthy, even if he is really bad. But yeah, it's hard to get excited about a team with 3 wins last year that leans heavy on their running back, Jordan Howard. It'll be okay.
And to speak quickly to Laker Great was talking about what in Tampa Bay, I mean, Tampa Bay they signed Josh McCown, but I mean, to me, that was Lovie Smith, who I kind of packaged, maybe unfairly, but I packaged Lovie Smith in with that old curmudgeon type of NFL coach who is going to take what he knows in Josh McCown over the new guys who are already there.
No, I think that's a fair assessment. Wasn't he the one who just kept running Tampa 2 out every single?
Yes.
Even though it didn't work.
Lovie Smith did not have the pieces to run what he wanted to run.
Johnny.
Oh, that was a big pause. That was a big sigh.
Johnny, who have we not talked about that you want to talk about right now?
I can't think of anyone, man. I think we might have done a pretty good job.
All right. Did we talk about Deshaun Jackson? I feel like we didn't.
No.
That's true.
How did we not talk about Deshaun Jackson?
It's true. We fucked up.
All right, Mike, your thoughts.
Deshaun Jackson, we had on the Footballers, we had a free agent, kind of like that prediction episode where everyone's putting their name on the line, putting a stamp of this player's going here. I totally had Deshaun Jackson going to Tampa Bay because I loved it. I loved the fit. It was a heart pick. It was a gut pick. It was a brain pick. Luckily, everything all came together, helped me look a little bit smarter than I should look usually, but it works out. Jameis Winston, the guy balls it out. He throws it deep, just super deep. Scotty, I don't know if you've been in on the coverage of Mike Evans, just people destroying him for his yards after catch situation. That smile tells me that you've been in on that.
I was one of those, yeah.
Yeah, and which to me, you get a guy like Deshaun Jackson, that's going to improve that situation. I'm not concerned at all about Mike Evans. I think Deshaun Jackson helps. You can't throw all of your safety help to stopping Mike Evans at the point of catch when you have to worry about an elite burner like Deshaun Jackson. So I think this is a great move for not only the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but as far as fantasy is concerned, Deshaun Jackson, wherever you had him, basically the last 3 years coming into your drafts or your MFL10s, that's where he's just, this guy treads water at value like nobody else.
Yep. No, I think he stays about the same, maybe a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, so the stat on Mike Evans is just that he averaged the lowest yards after catch per reception rate of any wide receiver over 100 qualifying of the past decade that had 1,000 yards or more. And to be completely honest, that's not a great predictive stat. That's just a stat more of how he was used. He was seen in double coverage, a lot of jump balls that he really couldn't do much after the catch with anyway. But a great stat that I think is probably even better than that is just Mike Evans ranked first in the league in air yards per game last season.
Yeah. Do you have the Jameis numbers? I think I feel like Jameis has led the league the last couple in air yards.
He's definitely high up there. Wasn't super efficient on those passes, but he was definitely high up there. I could pull that in 2 seconds, but Evans was so far the number one wide receiver that the difference between him and the second ranked wide receiver, Julio Jones, was bigger than that between Julio and the wide receiver who ranked 28th in air yards per game. So I think the big thing here is, this is a huge boost for Jameis Winston. He hasn't had a dependable wide receiver two his entire NFL career. It's been Mike Evans or bust. And you saw that last year with Mike Evans ranking first in the league in yardage market share, touchdown market share, first down market share, I think target market share. So he finally has a dependable number two guy, a guy who could stretch the field, get Mike Evans open underneath. It makes a ton of sense. But I am not taking Mike Evans over AJ Green. I'll pull up the Jameis Winston stat in a second, but that's a debate that me and Johnny have had the past few weeks. It's just that if you take out so in MFL10s right now, Evans is consistently going above AJ Green every single week or every single draft. And AJ Green, if you take out week 11, when he played just 2 snaps before leaving with an injury, he would have led all wide receivers on a fantasy point per game basis. Mike, let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was going to say who's on what side, and on our podcast, I am known like I'm the resident Mike Evans fan. I love him. I've got his. If I could turn my computer, you would in fact see a signed Mike Evans jersey hanging on my wall. That's how much I love him. However, AJ Green before Mike Evans all day, every day. I mean, the guy is an absolute beast. It is known what you're going to get from AJ Green from a much longer sample size. I mean, coming into last year, he had the longest consecutive 1,000-yard season. He fell just short this year, despite missing a handful of games and dealing with those injuries. So to me, it would if you're making the argument of on this coming season, AJ Green versus Mike Evans, it's easily AJ Green for me.
Yeah, and that Jameis Winston stat, by the way, he ranked 5th in average depth of target in 2015 and 2nd last year.
There you go. I was close.
Yeah, top 5 both seasons. That's high for sure.
Yep.
And Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson both ranked top 3 in deep targets last season, which means targets of 20 years or more through the air. Yeah,
I like that. Targets of 20 years or more. That's a really
yards
good
or more.
stat.
I'm
Pedialyte.
I've been exposed. Yeah. By the way, the Pedialyte and vodka is disgusting, even more so than I had originally thought. But it keeps me hydrated, so I can pot for hours.
Yeah, I will say this: at worst, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be extremely fun to watch on television next year with those two guys.
Nope, I'm with you. I agree. I don't have much more to add. I think Green's an interesting one to watch because if the Bengals keep sort of fucking up their offensive line situation,
man, it's a disaster.
There might be some concern, but I still think I slightly want to pursue him over Mike Evans, but it's getting closer every day with the O-line issues. Anything else, Scott?
No, I feel like we've all hit the 0.15 BAC level, which is typically when we try and wrap up the show. We're also at the 180 minute mark. Where are we, Johnny?
I don't know. We've been going, man.
Yeah, I got it.
It's easy.
I'm getting courted into coming onto this lovely podcast by Scotty. I was like, I feel like, what do you guys shoot for? It's like a 90-minute podcast. He was like, no. We shoot for 60 minutes, and I just have to screenshot your guys' feed. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? 60 minutes.
Yeah.
As long as we've been the longest podcast for a couple months, then I'm very satisfied.
I think this is our longest podcast, excluding draft pods. This is our longest podcast since our first 3.
Definitely pushing 2 hours, I would say.
Nailed it.
For sure.
Wait. Are we pushing 2 hours or did we hit 180 minutes? Those are two very different things.
I can find out for a fact.
Because one of those would be over 2.5 hours, and one of those is under 2 hours.
Well, this was supposed to start at 9:30. So
that's a fair point.
But
you know what? We officially hit 2 hours.
Oh,
we did
excellent. Excellent. So to your what do you call your listeners? What do you call your listeners?
PhDs.
The PhDs. Oh, excellent. The PhD. That's
Power
not bad.
Hour Degenerates. Shout out to Pano for inventing that.
I like it. So to the PhDs, I appreciate y'all jumping in here, listening to the podcast. I appreciate the fact that you were willing to jump in early. Your two lovely hosts, your co-hosts here, were accommodating to my schedule as a father of my 3. My 3 kids are trying to sleep in the other room. They're probably getting really pissed off that dad's being loud and talking about football in the other room. So I appreciate not only you bringing me on the podcast, but you guys adjusting your schedule to jump in here.
Do you have anything to plug? Maybe you said you've done a podcast before, or maybe your unverified Twitter account.
Sure. So that's how we're gonna bring the curtains down. We're going with the unverified burn.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah, so check out the Fantasy Footballers. We are far more a season long, a keeper type of league. Check us out. We're doing 2 shows a week right now. July we'll move to 3, and then we go full 5-banger once August starts. We're every single day. The grind is real for all of your redraft keeper, and a little bit of dynasty, and we talk some DFS as well. But our show is really a redraft and keeping your league fun type of show.
Yeah, and they have their guests are like real football players, so
we've had a couple.
Yeah, they had David Johnson off season last year. So they're bringing on some real heat. So check them out for sure.
If you've ever wanted to know if you're like a car, elite car person, I don't know what the word would be, a motorhead, so to speak. If you can decipher the turn signal noise of when David Johnson is giving us his interview, then you could figure out what kind of car David Johnson drives. So, I mean, there's that hot tip. Nice Easter egg for any of your listeners right now. Oh, Taylor actually listens to the show because she knows that we sing David Johnson on our show.
David Johnson.
Yes, yes, Scotty. Not bad.
I am in the band Motorhead, and I did figure out what that car was. It was a 1998 Toyota Corolla.
Oh, yep. You got David Johnson in a Corolla.
By the way, we were supposed to pod at 8:30, and I'm being told we're over 2.5 hours already. So if you've listened all the way, I feel like
it's a badge.
We owe you money. I don't know.
You deserve a badge of honor.
Yeah.
You're
a true PhD. Yeah.
We'll be like really nice to you in the Slack chat when we start it. Something like that. No.
No pictures of my infected junk. Those go straight to Dr. Johnny.
Right.
No one else.
You guys got any other last minute thoughts?
5-star review.
Yeah. So leave us a review. Scott will
5 stars only.
Cycle through the people who have given us those reviews, get you into if we get more than enough, then he's going to just randomly pick people to be in our MFL10 leagues. We're going to do 2 of them with our guests. Hopefully Arizona will be allowed to participate by then. If not, we will have to find a replacement guest.
Our government doesn't like DFS.
Go beef later.
So if you're in Arizona, go lobby and let's make this happen.
Hey man, we've been down to the Capitol building. We were there.
So join in, send letters, make phone calls. Phone calls, letters are better than emails. If you are in Arizona.
That's a pro tip. Emails don't do anything. I will tell you that much.
Yes, they go nowhere. Make phone calls, send a letter by hand, sign that shit, send faxes. You really want to piss off somebody who's in the government? Blow up their fax machine.
I heard blow up and I'm like, oh.
Hidden pro tip. Just keep sending it through their fax machine. They will get it.
If you tape like the paper together, you can send an infinite fax.
Oh.
There was a congressman.
Scott, have you ever heard of a fax machine?
Oh man.
There was a congressman who was actually getting thousands of faxes regarding healthcare stuff, and apparently it was so bad that he actually had to read them. So if you actually want to get people to read things, fax them, call them, send them letters. That's what you need to do. But that aside, you can find Scott on Twitter at Scott Barrett DFB. You can find Mike on Twitter at FF Hitman.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a real hitman. It is fantasy related.
Yes. There's no bloodshed, only fantasy blood.
Yep. You can find the fantasy footballers at the FF Ballers. You can find them on iTunes, everywhere else you can find them, or thefantasyfootballers.com. Make sure to listen to their stuff. It's good stuff, especially during the offseason when they get some real NFL guests on. That is good stuff.
We haven't had one on for a while, though. I will concede that. I'm working on it.
But they will get one.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Twitter at John Proctor DFS. Other than that, you guys got any last minute thoughts?
I'll jump in here. Nope. Just thank you again. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate the people in the chat and the listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun. Scott, any thoughts?
I think if we ever want to do a marathon 24-hour podcast, we need to get Mike on again because this was so easy to just go way over time.
I've warned you.
Nah, man. We're just here to hang out, you know?
You want to talk about going over, not EOMs, talking about dragons. I mean, we're in a whole new world. If you want to start bringing up World of Warcraft and all that stuff, dragons, I can tell you some tales of dragons and dragon rides.
That's when we officially go off the rails. that's when we got to pull the curtains. Scott, you got anything else?
If you think Mike's a good fantasy football writer, wait till you check out his fantasy fiction writing.
All right. On that note, I'm gonna call
terrible.
it. Make sure you follow everyone. Make sure you follow the fantasy footballers. Check it all out. Make sure to keep your eyes open for the Slack chat. We will put it out. Other than that, peace.